All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new. Sorry if I just screamed into the microphone. Appreciate you guys joining me today once again. It's Monday, September 15th. We're officially at the halfway point of the month. State of Play, Showcase, some type of Sony event could be announced at any moment. In fact, it could be announced during this very stream. Ow! That hurt. Boss just jumped up on my arm. Scratched the shit out of me. Maybe he's trying to tell us something. He's trying to tell us something, guys. I see we have Hiroki Totoki in the chat. Mr. Totoki has decided to grace us with his presence and join us during this very important stream. Boss, what are you trying to tell me? You trying to tell me it's happening? Is it happening? What's up, guys? Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have been acknowledging everybody that's here. Isley, Early Bud, Petrov, Unknown, Irfin. I saw Michael in the chat telling people to like the stream. And actually, it's funny because Michael, dude, I don't know if you're going to employ that. I don't know if you're going to deploy the same tactic today, but the last time you did, that stream got more likes than pretty much any other regular stream we've done, which was nice to see. So yeah, guys, if you want to help the stream, if you want to let me know that you enjoy the content and you're looking forward to, to our discussions and more combat, make sure you hit that like button. It definitely helps, and I really appreciate it. We are going to be covering more PlayStation-related topics today, and we do have some interesting ones. And boss, for the love of all that is holy, man, is this really how it's going to be today? Where's Corey when you need him, bro? State of Play could be around the corner. Yeah. People, I think by now understand that Sony will announce these things literally the day before. I don't know if they'll do that this time, but Sony's crazy. They just don't care anymore. They'll literally give you a 24-hour notice and be like, be there or be square, bro. Whatever that means. Be there or be an Xbot. I don't know. But we do have some really interesting topics to go over today. We have a leak regarding Venom that I think people are going to be excited about. And I'm definitely excited to talk about it. And we have Raven X0 coming in. Raven, what's up, man? He comes in, he drops 5 membership gifts for you guys. Raven is like, hey, I see boss. Corey's running a little late. So he's going to start it off by dropping 5 for you guys. Raven, thank you so much. And yeah, guys, if you do become a member or if you are lucky enough to get gifted a membership, we do have members content coming later this week. We may end up doing some members content today. It depends on how it goes, but no matter what, we'll be doing some members content before the end of the week, so you can rest assured. Raven, thank you for that. I'm going to add that to the goal.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let me do that now. But yeah, man, we are talking about, it's not just a Venom leak, by the way. We're getting info about Wolverine and its release date. Come on, boss. Come on. We're getting information about when Wolverine is releasing, and we're seemingly going to be seeing that very soon. So, yeah, I saw that. Apparently, people found some cut dialogue or something from what was supposed to be the Spider-Man 2 DLC. And I do wonder if they're going to roll some of that into the Venom game. There's a high likelihood that's what they're going to do. But we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about whether or not this Venom game could actually be a PlayStation 6 launch title. I actually think there's a really good chance it could be. But the second topic we're going to talk about, and I don't know. I'm wondering if I should lead with this topic or not. But either way, I know people are going to be really interested in it because it's basically some type of relatively vague follow-up from Sony regarding their multi-platform / multi-format strategy. People specifically Push Square, let me give them the credit on this. Push Square was the one who pointed out that Sony seemingly removed the multi-format revenue from their corporate report that they put out yesterday. And this is this is potentially significant. This has led to a lot of a lot of speculation, a lot of conversations, but a lot of speculation that, does this mean? Does this mean that Sony's walking back their, you know, their multi-platform plans? What does this mean? Like, are they still going to be dropping games on PC, or what about future games on Xbox? And we're going to talk all about that because I do think a lot of people are jumping to conclusions, which is understandable with something like this. It happens all the time, and I've been guilty of it myself. But we're going to discuss it and, try to have a reasonable discussion on what this likely means for Sony and what we can infer from it. But we're also going to be talking about some comments that Neil Druckmann made about not just Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and teasing how ambitious this game is and the gameplay elements of it, but also seemingly teasing that there may be another Last of Us game in development that's not The Last of Us Part 3, which is really interesting to me for a myriad of reasons. And I think that's pretty interesting to anybody who, even remotely likes the Last of Us series, even if you're just a fan of the first game and not so much the second. So these are the three main topics of discussion today. We'll probably touch upon some other stuff as well as we, go throughout the stream. But before we dive into any of these topics, I want to once again ask you guys to please take a moment and hit that like button. We're already sitting at 39 likes. We could easily bump that up to 50. And after that, we'll push for 75 and 100 and keep going. And I wanted to, again, thank everybody for tuning in, especially... Oh, is the volume low? Hold on. Guys, are you having trouble with the volume? Irfin's saying it's low. Yeah, Patrick, we did talk about that. Everything sounds good? Okay. All right. Yeah, Irfin, I don't know if it's maybe just something on your end. Maybe I'm just talking lower. But before we get into the topics, if you appreciate this content, if you appreciate these streams, if you enjoy these streams to any degree, or you look forward to them, or you just appreciate what I do here on YouTube, consider becoming a supporter. Consider becoming a channel member. Like I said, you'll support me directly, but you will gain access to some exclusive perks. If you're already a member, and actually, even if you're a non-member, like if you were a member but you're not anymore, you can still gift memberships. Consider gifting memberships. We're striving for a goal of 25 to feed the beast some of his treats. If we hit 50, we'll do some reps like we did yesterday. But you can also super chat and drop direct donations. These are all ways in which you can support this channel, this community, and this content. We are completely fan funded. We're sponsorship free. We're able to keep it that way. And that is because of the generosity of the community. So thank you guys so much for your continued support. Literally couldn't do it without you. We need to do rag goal. Yeah, maybe one day. It was Irfin's volume on his laptop. It was low. Planet Clippy says, MBG, my 18-year-old cat died the other day. Send a bereavement shout out to Annie. Well, yes, this is a shout out for Annie, an 18-year-old cat that recently passed. 18 years, that's good though. That's a long life for a cat, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's above average. Like, that goes beyond the average. But still very sad. So rest in peace, Annie. Shout out to Annie the cat. Boss is here to say. But Boss is here to give his condolences. But dude, you're making my eyes itch. Just chill. Just please, God, Boss, chill. Like, you have to know by now. You have to know you're not just going to immediately get treats. No. Get away. Meanwhile, my cat, get away from me. Stop it. Look at him. He's like going to pounce. Stop. Don't do it. Don't do it. Boss hissed at my mother-in-law today. He's being bad. He's being very bad today. I'm just going to have to chill over here until we hit that goal. All right, guys. So let's dive into the first topic, which let's talk about. We'll start with Venom. We'll start with Venom. Because to me, this is overall the more exciting, like the most exciting topic and the most exciting rumor that we're going to cover. So I'm going to go over this report from MP first. It says almost 2 years have passed since Insomniac Games suffered one of the biggest security breaches to occur in the video game industry. The leak exposed a massive amount of information on various projects and development, including an early build of the previously announced Wolverine and the studio's full release schedule, which included several titles like a new Ratchet and Clank game and a Spider-Man spin-off centered on Venom. Shortly after the incident, Insomniac released a statement confirming that development of Wolverine would continue as planned. However, this was followed by a period of radio silence that only fueled uncertainty among fans, raising doubts about the current state of several titles that were seen in the leaks. As some of you may know, at least one project from this leaked roadmap has already been canceled. The 3 planned DLCs for Spider-Man 2, these were centered on the villains Carnage and Beetle, with the third focused on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Nonetheless, with the launch of the game's PC port, Insomniac officially declared they had no intention of releasing any additional content for Spider-Man 2, effectively ending these plans. This clear movement happening behind the scenes makes us wonder about the current state of projects like Wolverine and Venom. So fortunately, we've received updates on both. Someone familiar with the situation has confirmed to us that Wolverine will stick to its 2026 scheduled release, seen in the leaks, and that the Venom project is still in development. Additionally, we've also managed to gather some extra details about Venom based on information we've come across. They say the most important information, however, we received from our main source is that Wolverine is hitting that 2026 release and Venom is still in development. While we haven't been able to determine how advanced Venom is in its development, and this is where they're saying, we assume Wolverine remains a priority and that Venom, see, they say they believe Venom is still in pre-production. That's highly unlikely. To be clear, it's highly unlikely that Venom, if it's still in development and wasn't canceled, after all this time, it's very unlikely it would be in pre-production. It may still be a few years away, but pre-production, to me, that insinuates that like it hasn't even really actually begun development, and that could be possible, to be clear. But they can't seem to determine from their source how far along in development Venom is. But they're also confirming that, at least what they were told from their source that they trust, Wolverine is sticking to a 2026 release, which is good because there has been some concern, understandably, that is this going to be like a swan song game for the generation that comes out like the end of 2027 or something. It seems that that's not the case. But continuing with this report, they say here there are also some details from regarding the story for Venom that we got from a different source, but because we could not verify this, we recommend that you take it with a grain of salt. So this isn't, I would say, anything spoiler related. It's just giving us some information about, like, just basic, slight, minor story details is what I'm trying to say. Can't get the right word. Minor story details. So they say here, one of these would be that Eddie Brock will take the protagonist role. This might seem obvious to some, given what happened to the last user of the symbiote in Spider-Man 2, but it still helps us to rule out the possibility of other symbiote users taking a lead, such as Flash Thompson, who was Agent Venom in the comics, or even an original character. We also know that, at least visually, this Eddie Brock will be closer to his comic book counterpart, more so than the live-action rendition played by Tom Hardy in the films. They say on the topic of characters, the Venom game would also see the return of Carnage, who was previously leaked as the main villain of the game based on the internal slideshows from the Breach. Additionally, Anti-Venom would be featured, but not the version controlled by Peter Parker. Instead, we see the more monstrous-looking version from the comics that Eddie Brock eventually uses. As with Peter Parker and his struggle with Venom, Eddie can maintain control over his persona with Anti-Venom. So this could play a significant role in the overall story. As a final note, we've also come across some clues that suggest that Insomniac is currently working to include Miguel O'Hara, also known as Spider-Man 2099, in one of these projects. We don't know if they will be in Venom or if it could be related to Spider-Man 3. But Spider-Man 3 seems a little bit more likely because they're saying here that Spider-Man 2 hinted at, tie-ins to the Spider-Verse, or at least having a multiverse of some kind. but but yeah, this is some really good information I think that we're getting. It says it was originally planned to be released at the end of this year, speaking about the Venom game, but more recent data from the Insomniac hack and leaks placed it as a 2027 title. And so to me, this is really good news, assuming it's true. Because I thought, there were obviously slight spoilers um for Spider-Man 2, but I thought that the sections with Venom, specifically the playable section with Venom, was like the peak of the game. Like that was like the best part of the game, and I thought it was like the most thrilling part of the game. And a lot of people were wondering, like, if you completed Spider-Man 2, like, wait, what's going on? How could Venom, you know, like, how is this going to work? And so it does make a lot of sense that you bring in Eddie Brock to be Venom. Like that's the most logical thing to do. So, um, when it comes to the overall release time frame of this game, it seems to me that when we saw that leaked internal document from Insomniac that placed Venom at release of 2027, that's from Insomniac. I think it's pretty clear, knowing that we're getting information this game is not canceled. This is going to be a PlayStation 6 launch title. That makes by far and away the most sense, because when you look at what Sony did with the launch of the PS5, they brought in Spider-Man Miles Morales, and that was massive. It will be, yeah, there's no doubt that the standalone Venom game, if it is going to be a 2027 title and it launches alongside the PlayStation 6, it will absolutely be a cross-gen title. There's no doubt about that. It's not going to be PS6 only. Could you imagine if they did, though? That'd be crazy. They're not going to do that. They're going to, try to strive for as many sales as they can. But Miles Morales as a PlayStation 5 launch title was colossal. Like, if you look at the leaked sales data that we got with that Insomniac hack as well, Miles Morales did like incredibly well. I think it did way better than Sony anticipated, and it was a cheaper title. It was like $50, and it was a smaller title, but yeah, it was a good holiday game too. So, the stars seemingly aligned with that, but you can understand why Sony looks at something like that, and also Insomniac, and they're like, maybe if we're going to do a Venom game and it's going to be a smaller game in scope and scale compared to Spider-Man 2 and 1, maybe something similar to the size and scope of Miles Morales, make that a PlayStation 6 cross-gen launch title. Irvin, you're saying it did 6.5 million units. Yeah, I mean, and it was a game that was meant to try to drive PS5 sales, and I think it did pretty well. Um, and I don't know the level of popularity. Like I know that Spider-Man, like Peter Parker Spider-Man, the main Spider-Man is incredibly popular. I'm assuming Miles Morales is very popular too, but I don't know how popular Venom is. And yeah, Hanzo, I think you're saying it's at 14.4 million units as of June 2023. Yeah, I knew it basically like catapulted at some point, and really became like one of Sony's biggest sellers. So, I get this general sense that Sony wants to replicate that success, not just for Insomniac, but mainly because they're gonna, I mean, let's face it, they're gonna need a strong launch lineup for the PlayStation 6. We've been talking all about next gen. We've been talking constantly, actually, because there's been a lot of leaks and rumors and discussions about what their plans are going to be. They're going to need a really strong launch title, or not just title, launch lineup, maybe even stronger than what we saw with the PS5. And it's interesting because it seems clear that Sony wants to try to replicate what they did with the PS5. So it's like, if we had Spider-Man Miles Morales ready to go from Insomniac, let's try to have Venom ready to go. You have to wonder, when you look at the launch lineup of the PS5, how far that may extend. I've speculated for quite some time they could do a Bloodborne remake. Demon Souls remake was there at the launch of the PS5, a very hyped title, a title that I think it definitely sold very well at launch and drove a lot of sales. Could we see a Venom PS6 Bloodborne combo? I know I'm going out there with my hopes and dreams here, but um, it could come together that way. It absolutely could. But yeah, if this Venom game is meant to be something that launches alongside PlayStation 6, it will be holiday 2027. As of right now, that is seemingly what Sony is targeting, or the time frame they're targeting for the launch of the PlayStation 6. Yeah, and that's true too, Laman. You're saying don't forget X-Men, or an X-Men game was also in the Insomniac leaks list. How ask me, what do I think that game would look like? Well, to me, a potential X-Men game, assuming that they are going to continue with those plans, that would come probably more towards the middle or even later half of the PlayStation 6 generation, because keep in mind, Spider-Man 3 still has to come. A lot of people are thinking that Venom would not be a PS6 launch title because Spider-Man 3 would be a PS6 launch title. But I would argue against that simply because Spider-Man 3, I I would assume Sony and Insomniac feel this way. Spider-Man 3 is a game that would, I think, you would, if you're going to make PS6 only games, you follow the path that you did with the PS5. You make Spider-Man 3 a PS6 only game, and you probably drop that a couple years after the PS6 releases. They could absolutely make Spider-Man 3 a cross-gen, and I've anticipated that they will do that, but they might just want to follow the exact trajectory that they've done with the PS5 here because of how successful it's been. And so if that's what you want to do, it would be better to, I think, put Venom out there first as a cross-gen title. Maybe make Spider-Man 3 you know, maybe make that a PS6 only game and really help that. Because let's face it, Spider-Man is a system seller. No doubt. Spider-Man sold probably millions of PS5s, no doubt. Spider-Man 2. So they would probably want Spider-Man 3 to do some heavy lifting for the PlayStation 6. It's hard to say, though. But yeah, I do think it's obvious that Venom's going to come. Then it's going to be Spider-Man 3, and then eventually an X-Men game. Your belief is that the PS6 launch titles will be weak due to numerous cancellations and restarts. I don't think they'll be weak. It does depend on what will be ready to go, but Sony will figure it out, I think. Even if they have to, I don't want them to have to do this, but even if they have to rely on like striking a deal or two for timed exclusivity, I think they would be willing to do that if they really needed it. How many Venom games are there? I don't know, actually. Wait, are there any Venom games? I know there's a ton of Spider-Man games. Boss, hey, you're gonna knock that over. Dude, we're still 20 away, bro. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to be patient. All right. I'm gonna give him an advance. I did this yesterday and it worked. I gave him an advance in good faith that we'll end up hitting the goal. I'll do it again. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And Michael Wernick comes in and drops a 10 bomb on you guys with 3 platinums. I saw William was just gifted a membership as well. William was here yesterday. Michael, thank you so much for the 10 membership gifts, man. Let me see here we go. That's how Boss was feeling. You came through for him. With 10 memberships gifted, that brings us up to 15 members on the day. William, thank you once again for your continued support, buddy. He says 10 likes, 10 memberships. Let's go. That's how Mondays feel. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go. That is how Mondays feel. Josh, you don't like that the PS6 is regularly being talked about already? Yeah, but it just seems like it's just the way it's going to be, man. I would not be opposed with Sony, coming out much later with the PlayStation 6, around like 2028, 2029, but it seems like the plans are already in place. we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. A lot of people, I think, are a little bit frustrated with that notion that it's coming soon. But I think what the important thing to understand is we are still technically over 2 years away from it launching. And I think people sometimes do forget that, where like we're talking about it now, but if the rumors are true, it's coming out holiday, which would mean November 2027. That's 2 years and like basically 2 months from now, give or take. So, you know, it really, I think, depends on what happens in those 2 years, you know? Because let me ask you this question. I want you to look back to PlayStation in September of 2018. If we were talking about the PlayStation 5 releasing holiday 2020, but we were talking about it in September of 2018, what do you think most people's responses to that would be? I think most people's response to that would have been like, that seems maybe too soon. But then again, the generations are a little bit, well, hold on. No, that's actually exactly on point. It's actually the exact same time frame, come to think of it. Yeah. So it's actually in line. But yeah, there are people who feel like the generation didn't really kick off yet. We have Bobby Heckelmeyer with a super chat. Thank you for that, buddy. He says it's important to know that Sony hasn't sent out dev kits for the PS6 yet, and in the past they do that 2 years before launch. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the biggest indicator of when it will launch, when they get, because we will get news of that. You know, we're going to see the whole cycle again, where we're going to hear that dev kits were distributed to first party studios, and then will eventually make their way to third parties, and then we'll see the dev kit leak, and everybody will freak out thinking that's what the console is going to look like. Do you guys remember what the PS5 dev kit looked like? And how it like everybody's like, oh my god, this thing's gonna look terrible or something. And it and we saw the final product of the PS5 and it looked nothing, not even. I mean, you couldn't be more different, right? Well, that's why it's going to be interesting, Josh. I've been saying that I think now is the time for Sony to start really emphasizing their first party a little bit more aggressively. Because they did make a couple of mistakes this generation with the live service push, and there's no denying that. But we'll have to see how they close it out. Yeah, the V shape where you could put a slice of pizza. People thought that's what, I mean, it did look like that is what the console could end up looking like, but it looked completely different. Guys, make sure you're hitting that like button. We did surpass 50 likes. We're sitting at 63. Let's bump that up to 75. According to Moore's Law is Dead, the PlayStation 6 specs are finalized. Yeah, I think it was Kepler L2 or somebody like that. It was one of these AMD insiders that said the tape out for the PlayStation 6, I believe, was going to happen at the end of this year or early next year or something like that. And the tape out is basically, at least to my understanding, basically that. Like, they're going to start manufacturing these APUs and it's going to be real now. Like, it's going to be a real thing. And then not too long after, they'll probably start distributing dev kits. Are you kidding me? Boss, did you not get enough? Wow. I tried to just give Luna some treats, and Boss is like shooing her away. Like, no, they're mine. I have to give her some privately. Hellbound 1981, another legend comes in. He drops 5 more membership gifts for you guys. Hellbound, thank you so much for your continued support, buddy. With that gifted 5, that brings us up to 20. And so we are 5 away from hitting the first goal. Hellbound sets you up. We'll see if we get a member train going. Really appreciate that, buddy. Did you guys ever give an update on Blue Point remaking the original Metal Gear Solid? Yeah, well, it's clear that some information that we've gotten in the past was just flat out inaccurate. For the longest time, it seemed like Blue Point was doing some kind of Metal Gear remake. But then we eventually found out, like, no, it's going to be an MGS3 remake with Virtuous, or Virtuos, however you say their studio name. You want a hovering console? Let's do a LAN party for The Last of Us Online. Why is that so cursed? Dude, a LAN party for The Last of Us Online. Oh, man. When will we get the announcement of the event? It could happen any day now. The event is going to happen before the end of the month, so it could be announced tomorrow. It could be announced at the end of this week. It could be announced next week. But it's coming. We're counting down the days at this point. I'll do PlayStation event predictions when we get closer to them actually, like when they actually announce it. Because it could very well just be like, you know, if it is a state of play, they'll give us an idea of what to expect. If they do announce a showcase, which I'm not expecting, but if they do that, well, I mean, I'll have to do a whole, dedicated stream predicting, hyping it to the moon and back, just for it to be the worst showcase ever. But yeah, man, the reports are out, or at least this report is out. Venom is not canceled. Venom is still in development, and all signs are pointing towards Venom being a launch PlayStation 6 title. And Wolverine is coming out in 2026. I think it would be safe to say that Wolverine will end up being a holiday 2026 game. That makes the most sense. At least to me. Garrett, what's going on, man? Wolverine's not... Yeah, they're going to have a show. Sony's going to announce a state of play, and then Wolverine won't be there. Oh, that would suck. No. I mean, a lot of people believe that Wolverine is going to be a it's going to show up at the Game Awards basically. Even if Sony does do a show. I think that would be a mistake on Sony's part, dude. You know what I think? You know what I think you reveal if you're Sony and you're trying to distribute your game reveals? I think you reveal the second Naughty Dog game at the Game Awards. I think that's what you do. Because people do kind of expect Naughty Dog reveals in December now, because that's how it's been. The Last of Us 1 was revealed at the Game Awards. The Last of Us Part 2 was revealed in December at PlayStation Experience. Intergalactic was just revealed at the Game Awards. Naughty Dog has a bit of a history with doing December game reveals. So I think that would make sense if they want to do it that way. I don't think it would be smart to save Wolverine. You think it's not coming out this generation? Well, Irfan, I'm not so sure, dude. Keep in mind, the second Naughty Dog game, the report that we got previously is it's been in development for I think 3 years already. So, could we see Naughty Dog go crazy at the end of this generation where we got 2 games dropping? I don't know that I'm expecting it. That does sound unrealistic, but never say never, I suppose. All right, hold on though. What if this Naughty Dog game? Oh, hold on.
Dawn 2, Sony paying royalty to Disney over Sman.
Sorry, I tried to get that in there because I still have the speech turned on for direct donations. Laman says, I'm concerned over the Intergalactic game. I believe the game will flop. My anticipated game is Until Dawn 2. And yes, apparently Until Dawn 2 is in development at Firesprite. Sony paying royalties to Disney over X-Men. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. As long as they're partnered with Marvel, long as they're partnered with Marvel and making these, these hero-based games on Marvel-owned IP, they're going to continue to owe them royalties and money. That's part of the deal. But that's also why these games have to sell so much. I don't know if Intergalactic will be a flop. I think Intergalactic is another situation where we just, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. There's nothing there, in my opinion, to indicate it will be, their biggest hit ever or a flop. I don't think we can judge yet. It's just too early. The big thing about Intergalactic is we have to see the gameplay. That's my big thing with Intergalactic. I mean, Naughty Dog has a built-in fan base, so the chances of it flopping are low just because there are a lot of Naughty Dog fans that will buy whatever they make, ultimately. They're just one of those studios. But I think really what a lot of people wonder about with Intergalactic, which we'll talk about, in another topic separate, the big concern is, from that perspective, will it do significantly less than Uncharted, significantly less than Last of Us? Because Naughty Dog is known to be a studio that is an IP powerhouse. Like, the IPs that they create become big, right? They're not just like mediocre, mid-tier IPs. They're considered massive. Will Intergalactic reach that height? Can it reach that upper echelon? I don't know. You could tell they want it to. You could tell they're hoping it will. But, just like with any new IP and any new type of game, they're taking a risk. But what Neil Druckmann's saying about the gameplay, he seems, and I know it's like, oh, developer excited to show off their game. I know how it sounds, but he seems to really be excited. Like, he can't, it seems like Sony's holding him back. Like, he wants to show the game, but Sony's like, not yet. But he's expressing how he really thinks people are going to be surprised. Now, maybe he's just hyping it up or overhyping it. Maybe people won't be surprised. But yeah, he's really leaning into, like, it's interesting because he almost seems to be talking about it like, oh, you guys just, you don't know what this game is. And once you see it, you're going to feel a lot differently. I would be careful buying into the hype just because it's like, well, Druckmann also told me that Joel was going to go on another journey with Ellie. But I'm really curious. The big thing that Neil Druckmann seems to be emphasizing with Intergalactic is it's going to be different from gameplay-wise from The Last of Us and from Uncharted, and it's going to be much more seemingly, if not in depth, because I think it will have more depth to it, not as linear. He seemingly teased that. He teased like it might not be a linear game. There's a couple things. There's a couple things that he teased with this game in terms of its gameplay, and I'm curious to see. Yeah, and he just randomly confirmed Troy Baker's in it as well, just like out of nowhere. So we'll talk about that. That's another topic I have lined up. Well, yeah, Elden Ring is an inspiration for Intergalactic, so we'll see about that. But I don't think it'll flop. I do think, if I'm being completely honest, I think Intergalactic, like if I'm being realistic about it, Intergalactic may run the risk of maybe it won't achieve the same heights as Uncharted or The Last of Us. Let's face it, Uncharted and The Last of Us are mega hits, dude. Like, these games reach very, very high heights. It's tough as a studio to keep one-upping yourself when you reach that level of success. Why are some so negative? Well, I mean, there's going to be people negative about every game, no matter which game it is. I do think that after the controversy of The Last of Us Part 2, there's absolutely people who are rooting against Intergalactic. And, I'm not trying to lean towards that side of it where it's like, I hate Naughty Dog and I want this game to die. I'm not gonna say that until, like, my big concern is like, is this game going to be good gameplay wise? The story, new characters, new world, new everything. Okay, let's see what they want to say. Let's see how the story is. They got some interesting actors tethered to it, an interesting cast, so that's they got that going for it. And we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I think because I'm looking at some of the conversation going on in the chat. I think with Intergalactic, a lot of people are treating it, and it's hard not to because this is the way people react to it a little bit. I think people are treating it like it's got to be you're either on board with it or you're not, and it's like I don't really think we have to make that decision now, you know. But I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just like, if you're excited for it, cool. If you're excited for a new Naughty Dog game, be excited. If you're not interested, that's fine. But I think people making it seem like, you have to decide whether you're pre-ordering it right now. It's like, well, I don't think we have to. We've got one trailer. Like, we don't know anything about this game. Like, let's just give it a little bit of room to breathe, and we'll see. We'll judge it for ourselves once we see that gameplay. And get a better idea of the story. Yeah, you couldn't even pre-order it now if you wanted to. Yeah, JMR, we've talked about that. Of all the reasons for people to latch on to, man, it's like that's the reason. That's such a strange reason. Eddie Brock with comic accurate design in the Venom game? Indeed, that's coming. Apparently that's happening. Ghetto God, stay tuned and find out. Dude, listen, I'm not going down that road because we do have to move on to the next topic. And the next topic, I think, is something that you guys are going to be interested in. But I think we can all admit that if they do that, they're taking the piss at that point. They're taking the piss at that point. Like they're just doing it now just to fuck with these people and everybody. It's just like, here you go. So we'll see. All right. We're going to move on from that. We're going to be talking about really, dude, I'm super interested to see what you guys make of this because something tells me that this is going to be something that people talk about for the entire week. TP, bro, stop spamming, man. Come on. Chill. But this is something that I think is going to be discussed for quite some time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just something people will talk about today and then it'll just be glossed over. But it is interesting nonetheless. And I think a lot of you guys are going to be interested in knowing about this and finding out what's going on with Sony here. It says here, being reported by Push Square, and I want to give Push Square a lot of credit for this because nobody else picked up on this. Even I didn't. It says much has been made of PlayStation and its multi-platform releases. In a world where Microsoft has started releasing its entire portfolio to PS5, many suspect Sony to be following the same path, especially after unexpectedly porting games like Helldivers 2 to Xbox Series X and S and LEGO Horizon Adventures to the Nintendo Switch. But interestingly, in its latest corporate report, Sony has removed, quote, game revenue beyond console from its list of, quote, strategically emphasized indicators. This featured prominently in 2024's version of the exact same document. The platform holder now cites the following as its key measures: PS5 hardware units sold globally, PlayStation monthly active users, and total gameplay hours. This aligns with comments the company has made in the past, where it talked about a greater focus on engagement, but it clearly understands that hardware sales are its primary path to monthly active users. There's no real reference in the document to explain why Sony has removed gaming revenue beyond console as a strategically emphasized indicator, but it's absolutely worth noting that for fiscal year 2024, multi format releases accounted for just 2% of PlayStation's overall revenue. That figure includes all of the company's PC ports, including Helldivers 2, by the way, which is nuts when you consider that. Um, but yeah, 2% overall. It says the figure included the company's PC ports, but it did not, and this is the only thing it didn't include, was Helldivers 2 on Xbox because that came a little bit after. So it says here, nevertheless, with Sony seemingly focused on its own hardware and ecosystem, it perhaps illustrates why multi-format releases are simply a footnote for it. And this has, this has caught the attention. This write-up has caught the attention of, I think, like, anybody who's been wondering, like, what Sony's next move is going to be after we just saw Helldivers 2 make its way to, to Xbox. And I think people want to, it's easy to jump to conclusions with things like this. I think that some people see this and they immediately assume that Sony's walking back everything that they've done. They're not doing PC ports anymore. They're not giving anything to Xbox or Nintendo anymore. They're going back to the way things were. I think some people read this and they say it doesn't really mean anything. It just means they're not going to be talking about the money they're making, off platform, which, that could be what it means, but that also kind of doesn't make sense. Where's the rumor about Returnal going to Xbox? Yeah, I don't know if there's any truth to that one. We talked about that a little bit, but there's been nothing so far. No movement on that front. So I'm going to give my analysis of this. So if we look at the fiscal year 2024 report, and we see that Sony put a great emphasis. Now, keep in mind, this fiscal year report, I want to say this before I go any further. The corporate report from Sony is mainly for investors. It's, no different than their business updates that they do. It's to speak to investors, and anybody can look at it and anybody can read it over, but it's to kind of signal to investors like where we're going, what we're focused on, how we're going to continue to grow, how we're going to continue to make our money, and what's working for us. And so it's important to emphasize that or preface this because I think some people tend to overlook that. And so when we look at the corporate report from 2024, Sony seemed to be much more aggressive in highlighting their multi-format revenue, their multi-platform revenue. And you can understand why. We saw what was happening with Helldivers. They were dropping games like Spider-Man 2 and The Last of Us Part 2 on PC. So they were really doing a lot. And they put games like Lego Horizon on Switch. But, we were kind of paying attention to this stuff, and people just kept kind of asking the question like, well, everybody seemed kind of shocked that Lego Horizon was announced for Switch, but then it released and it's like, did anybody even buy this thing? And it's obvious that it flopped. Like and then not just on Switch, it just flopped in general. But it certainly didn't do anything on Switch. And so then you look at Spider-Man 2. What the hell is Boss doing out there? Then you look at Spider-Man 2 and The Last of Us Part 2, and especially Spider-Man 2, it being Spider-Man, it launched on PC about 1 year later. And everybody was kind of looking at that, and they're like, it like peaked at 30,000 players concurrently. And it just led to people questioning, like, is this good. We don't know because Sony doesn't tell us what their expectations are, but people definitely were thinking that this doesn't seem that great. Just even without having any expectations, it doesn't seem like it's doing amazingly well. And it does seem like the Spider-Man 2 port was kind of rushed a little bit in order to, close that gap somewhat. But the big thing here, and this is the big one that I need people to really focus on, because this to me is probably what has not, I don't want to say it has Sony concerned, but I think if there's anything that would motivate them to care a lot less about multi-format releases or multi-platform releases, where like maybe they see what Microsoft is doing and they start to think like, is this, maybe we should start doing this too. Maybe this is the way it's got to go now. The big thing that I think probably made them say, you know what though, is when you look at the fact that Helldivers 2 was as successful as it was, sold as many units as it did, the not overwhelming majority, but the lion's share of sales for Helldivers 2 came from PC, which Sony considers like multi-platform. And it still only accounted for 2% of their overall revenue. 2%, dude. So they were throwing Helldivers 2 out there, which I'm not saying Helldivers shouldn't be on PC. I'm just saying that even for as successful as it was, it didn't really do much for them, which is crazy. Like, I don't even understand how that's possible. I don't know if maybe that just signals, if anything, that just emphasizes like, bro, the PlayStation Store is your moneymaker. It's great that you sold that many copies on Steam, but you're only getting you're getting a 70% rip on every copy. But the PlayStation Store is still your moneymaker by far and away, and the PlayStation Store is tethered to your console. And I think, if anything, that's what maybe is making Sony de-emphasize. It's making Sony de-emphasize this off-console revenue because it's just not, just objectively speaking, they're not making a lot of money off of it. We talk about how much money Microsoft is making now that they own Call of Duty from PlayStation. That's not what's happening with Sony. I mean, Sony's making money too, but I'm just saying, like, Sony doesn't own a franchise that exists on another platform where it's like, dude, we're raking it in. It's all the people that were saying over the last 5 years that Sony's just making chump change on this. Like, this is just literally just a couple extra bucks they're making. I thought that they were exaggerating. I thought, no, they have to be making more than literally just, in the grand scheme of things, a couple of extra bucks. It's got to be doing something significant. This seems to confirm that, no, dude, like 98% of their revenue comes from their console. Or their consoles, I should say. 98%, dude. Even if Sony wanted to get more aggressive with being more multi-platform, I don't really know what they're hoping to achieve at that point. Because, the only other thing that they could really do is continue. They could continue what they're doing, which they might. But the only other option is like, okay, and this is what some people are speculating. They're like, well, maybe this is a signal that Sony's going to get even more aggressive with multi-platform. Maybe that's what they're going to get more aggressive with. And I would agree with that if Sony didn't re-emphasize PS5 sales. Why would they get more aggressive with multi-platform releases while simultaneously telling their investors that we're going to be more aggressive with trying to sell more PS5s? Maybe they could try to do both, but I feel like they're kind of antithetical, They don't really go hand in hand. It's usually one suffers slightly, at the hand of the other. Maybe not, though. Maybe they're just like, yeah, man, I don't think I'm not reading it this way, but maybe they're just like, yeah, we'll just put Wolverine day one on everything and still try to sell as many PS5s. And I feel like you see where that just kind of doesn't make sense. Where it's like, I'm sure you still will sell PS5s, no problem. But if you're trying to maximize PS5 sales, I
Ever
don't
wonder
know
why
that
we
that's
never
what
hear
will
a
do
peep
it.
about what's in a SOP or when one is happening and then the day it's announced we get pure lists of the games in it? Smiley face emoji.
Dude, my favorite list moonshot that we get every time, it's like guaranteed that we get the Bloodborne list every time. Every time there's a state of play announced, every time there's an event announced, you get the whole leaked Bloodborne of like Bloodborne Cart, Bloodborne Remake 2, Bloodborne 2, and all these different Bloodborne games. I'm just like, guys. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying though, Josh. It's funny how that works. Yep. As soon as it exists, you know what? Maybe I'll put my list out there now. Somebody put a list out now. Yeah, by some random dude on Twitter. I look forward to it though. It's always fun. I love how it's just become a joke though over the years. Like it used to be taken seriously, now it's just a joke. Bloodborne anime exclusive to PS6? Absolutely. How come I'm getting advertisements on the stream chat bit now? Carl, what are you talking about? I have monetization for the stream is on, but I have it insert ads manually. So the only time you would get an ad is if you first click on it, and then after that you shouldn't get any more while you're watching live anyway. If you're watching after the fact, that's different. But YouTube keeps pushing that on me too. And I like they keep asking me like why I'm not running ads in the middle of my streams. I'm like, dude, cuz it's just not a thing, you know? Like people are used to watching live uninterrupted. I'm not just going to suddenly start interrupting them. I wouldn't be surprised if one day they're going to do what Twitch does and they're just like, now you don't have a choice. They might do that. I haven't heard anything, but it wouldn't surprise me. I do appreciate that YouTube gives me some control though, you know. PlayStation Pete with a super chat says game dev at Sucker Punch got fired. My idol Scott Baio, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, has a YouTube channel. I don't know who that is. PlayStation Pete, you're saying they're your idol? I have no idea who that is. And yeah, there was confirmation that developer was fired from Sucker Punch. Like there was official confirmation of that from Sony. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with there seems to be a lot of problems with YouTube and what they're doing and changes they're making. A lot of people, I've been seeing a lot of videos, a lot of other content creators pointing things out, and I'm like, this is why I just really emphasize to you guys, like now more than ever, I am very grateful for those of you who support directly because I don't know what's going on with YouTube anymore, man. Like my channel's still monetized. I still get a little bit of ad revenue, but it's not really, it just seems like it's not going great anymore. So I really, really appreciate those of you who support directly. When I tell you I couldn't do it without your support, I literally mean that. I'm not just saying that. No, I'm gonna get it now unknown. I'm gonna hold up my end of the bargain. I'm not gonna, like I said yesterday and the day before, I'm not gonna sit here and ask for action to be taken, and then when action is taken, do nothing and say, never mind, I'm still not. You know, that doesn't seem right to me. I don't like that. I would struggle with that, you know, where it's like I would feel like frankly I would feel wrong for doing that. Like that's what would make me feel truly wrong. Like that's not right. Saying Scott Bio was Happy Days, Charles in charge, diagnosis murder. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never heard that name before, dude. I've never heard that name before, PlayStation Pete. Happy days. Well, I mean, there is that side of it too, Isley. People were saying that. Like, people were saying, well, like, you know, can't skip it because your PlayStation channel. It's like, well, it's not so much about that. Whiskey, you're heading out, man. Thanks for hanging out, bro. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. What other games are coming out in October? I have to look it up. I know there's more. I know Battlefield's coming in October. Battlefield 6. That's coming very soon. Skate is dropping tomorrow, by the way. Really interested to try Skate and see what that's like. It's been a long time since I played Skate. It's free to play, so, you know, check it out if you want, I guess. Bro, there's no way you're saying woke Skate. Like, come on, man. It's Skate. We're skating. It's skateboarding. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand here. PlayStation Pete, thank you for the super chats. Continuing my analysis of this, I don't think... what was that sound that my throat just made? That was weird. I don't think that this is a clear-cut indication that Sony is going to walk back their multi-platform approach. However, I do think that this is a potential sign and signal, and I have to underline and emphasize the word potential, that they may, I don't want to say pivoting, what's the right word? They may be slowing down dramatically. Because the reality is 2% is 2%. 2% is something. And even though it may be nothing, very, very, very small portion of the overall pie on the pie chart, it's still something. It is still extra money that they're making. I think internally Sony is probably trying to figure out, like, they're trying to assess the risk overall of, like, if we keep pushing this way and we're, these are the gains we're getting in return, it's accounting for about 2% of our overall revenue. Is it worth it to continue down this and, down this road? And, that risk comes in a few different forms. It comes in the form of, how much time and resource are you dedicating to these ports, to supporting these other platforms? What about the public perception? These are all risk areas that they have to assess. And again, when they look at the end result of you're getting to, this is how much you're making. Is it worth it? It might just be simple business where it's like, not really. Like, we'll continue it where it makes sense, but in terms of pursuing it and making it a focus area, at least right now, it's not making sense. So I don't know if that's a signal to push harder or to, again, pump the brakes. And Hanzo, a member for 20 months. Thank you, Hanzo, for being a member for so long. You're saying, we're born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open. Fear the old blood. Bloodborne Remake lives with the Hiroki Totoki emoji. I love it. Thank you, Hanzo. Thank you. I needed to hear that. You just got another advertisement? It was an Amazon advertisement on the live chat bit. What? You getting ads in the chat now? I don't know. Dude, Carl, I have no idea what you're... Yo, is that a thing that you... Yo, what? Mrs. MBG just told me it's happening to her too. You're telling me you're getting advertised to in the chat now? It's been happening for months now? What? I've never heard of that before. That's crazy. Do they have memberships? I don't know if memberships... Yeah, I know Mrs. MBG has a membership, so I don't think that'll stop it. I never knew that. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm living under that rock. Damn. Yeah. Well, YouTube's definitely pushing these days. They're keep, they keep trying to find different ways. Um Well, yeah, hopefully it's not too intrusive. You guys, it's interesting. You guys are telling me it's been happening for months, and I just had no idea. Well, I guess this is one way to find out. Yeah, I've had YouTube Premium for years now. YouTube Premium is well worth it. I use YouTube Music as well, so it's like super worth it for me. Then you delete it and you can see the chat. Early Bud says they never seen one. Keep missing out on the whole conversation. Well, we're still talking about the multi-format situation. YouTube Premium for the win. I've never seen ads in the chat. I wonder if it's something they're rolling out. Because you know what? People were telling me, and this is the way YouTube works sometimes, or seemingly all the time. Every time they roll out updates, they just kind of roll out in waves. People were telling me that on other YouTube channels, they're able to gift from their iPhone when they're on YouTube. That was not a thing for the longest time. And apparently, somewhat recently, they started updating it where now you are able to, but it's just seemingly rolling out slowly across all channels. So some channels out there have it before me, but at some point, seemingly, I don't know when, it could be a week from now, could be 3 months from now. It just depends on how slow YouTube is with it. Eventually, iPhone users will be able to gift memberships right from their iPhone. Because I know it's been like hugely problematic for a lot of people. A lot of people have said that they want to support through memberships, but they're iPhone users and that's how they interact with YouTube, and they just can't. We have Broccoli Rob, a member for 20 months. He says, a hunter is a hunter, even in a dream. I thought you were going to say a hunter is broccoli, even in a dream. I thought for sure that's what you were going to say, Broccoli Rob. But he had to do the full quote. He had to do the proper quote. Bloodborne remake. I'm telling you, man, a Bloodborne remake would make people go nuts. It would absolutely make people go nuts for the PS6. If Sony, dude, if Bluepoint Games isn't right now working on Bloodborne remake, I have to question what the hell they're doing. MBG, is your channel a band account? A brand account? I'm not sure. MBG, that has to do with Apple wanting to charge more for memberships and in-app purchases, and YouTube does not want to do that. Well, apparently something changed, Ray, because there are channels where iPhone users, they've come here and they've told me they go to those channels and they can, they can do it no problem. So we'll see. We'll see. You guys will let me know, I'm sure, whenever that update happens. Amazon's trying to sell you kitchen stuff now. Yo, a Dark Souls remake would be amazing. I'd be all over a Dark Souls remake. I think Dark Souls 1, it's reached that point where it's like it could use a remake in the vein of Demon Souls. Because we have the Dark Souls remaster, but it's just that, it's a remaster, higher resolution, higher frame rate. A Blue Point-esque remake for Dark Souls 1 would be incredible. I would love that. But Ahmed, you're saying you ordered my chair model from Amazon and it arrives on Friday? I tried to find it under the product section that YouTube offers, and they didn't have it. So I would say I would feel bad if you didn't order it through a link or something, but it doesn't exist. So it's a good chair. Anyway, getting back on track here. Yeah, perfect image, I guess, just keep me updated. Getting back to the topic, because it's my fault. I keep getting deviated from the topic. I don't think that any PlayStation player, because I've seen this, I've especially seen this on Twitter. I don't think that any PlayStation player who is more of a traditionalist, that's the term I'll use, that's more of a traditionalist, I don't think they should jump to the conclusion that this is Sony going back. I think it's too soon, and we don't know enough yet. There's actually another angle to this. some people are speculating that Sony removing this from their corporate report isn't an indication that they don't care about it anymore and it's not important to their business, but it's actually just now baked in. And what that would mean is that there's no longer a need to emphasize it because it's just assumed. Does that make sense? So it's like for the first couple years, Sony has to keep emphasizing that this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. And then they do it long enough and eventually it just becomes part of the normal. But I don't know that I buy that per se, only because if you follow Sony, like they continue to emphasize the obvious, right? Like, why would they need to emphasize PS5 sales if it was already known? Like, yeah, just assume we care about selling PS5s. But they continue to emphasize it anyway. I guess what I'm trying to say is, as much as I want to believe it's just baked in, it's hard for me to truly read it that way because I've been following Sony's financial reports and their corporate reports for years now, and they are very, very, very intentional about every single thing that they say and every word that is written or typed up for these reports. Nothing is just thrown out into the ether. It's all very intentional. And it's just hard not to read this as potentially something that, again, you shouldn't jump the gun on and jump to conclusions, but to read it as something that it could be Sony's way of, simply put, just saying, yeah, we are beginning to pull back now. And maybe it is kind of that realization on Sony's front where it's like, you know, we saw Microsoft, like Sony has the data. They have Microsoft's data. We saw Microsoft port, like, I mean, how many games? Like a dozen or maybe a little bit less than that, but a lot of games. Like they've port, by this point, Microsoft has ported a lot of games to PlayStation. And in that time, it seems as though there's really only been one game that really hit, and that was Forza. I think Sea of Thieves did well, but it didn't like explode. It just was like, okay, yeah, it did pretty well. It's a live service, so it also makes sense. And I guess Forza Horizon is a live service too, but Forza was the only game that really, I think, that is a game that, like, if Sony saw that, they're like, holy shit, like, could that be us on Xbox or something? But I see people talking about Gears of War, and like, look, man, I don't know how Gears of War did on PlayStation. I see people talking about it like it flopped or didn't do well. All I know is I don't see anybody talking about it, like, at all. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, it just feels like it just came and went. And granted, it is a 20-year-old game. It's another remaster of a game that already got a remaster. But just the fact that it seems like it didn't really have much of an impact on PlayStation, I'm seeing people speculate that these things are impacting Sony, that Sony is looking at these things and making these decisions. There's one thing I want to point out here that I think some people are overlooking. And again, I'm not highlighting this so that we can jump to conclusions, but it's food for thought. If you're going to speculate, which we are, just keep this in mind. This corporate report was written up and distributed after Sony not only launched Helldivers 2 on Xbox, but gave it some time, a couple of weeks. This report came after that. Now, could it be that Sony was waiting to see what would have happened? Like, if we put Helldivers on Xbox, what if it explodes and it takes that 2% and moves up to 5%? Suddenly that looks a lot better. It's possible. But I'm just emphasizing that so people keep in mind that this report did not come before Helldivers. It came after. That 2% is not accounting the Helldivers revenue from Xbox, not yet anyway. But I think it's safe to say that it probably didn't move the needle much. Because frankly, even it selling over 10 million copies on PC or something didn't move the needle much. So, it's just something I think we're going to want to pay attention to. Now, I don't think Helldivers flopped anywhere, to be honest. I think in isolation, I think Helldivers seemingly did well enough everywhere it went. It did well on PlayStation. It did really well on PC. And it seemingly did pretty well, all things considered, on Xbox. It has to be over 1 million sold at this point. I don't think Sony's upset with that. I don't think they're mad about that. And they're like, that's nowhere near what we thought. At least I don't think that's what their mentality is. But they probably do look at that and think, well, you got an extra 1 million sales. That's good. And that's 1 million more players. What's the bottom line look like? Sir, the bottom line looks like this accounts for like less than 3%. And I don't know. I don't know if you're Sony, like, you have to. The important thing to keep in mind is Sony's entire strategy revolves around prospective growth. And I think when people have these conversations on the internet, they tend to forget that. They tend to lean more towards their biases, and I do too sometimes. Everybody does. But if you're looking at it more from just an objective, business-oriented standpoint, every strategy that Sony thinks up and deploys is in the name of growth. And you could say, well, hey, an extra 2 or 3% from these other sources, such as Xbox, PC, Switch, that's an extra 2 or 3% that wasn't there previously. Yes, but when you're thinking about Sony's overall ambition, their ambition is not to just slow grow. If their ambition was to just slow grow, chances are they'd have a better chance of doing that with their console. And that's important to understand. If the growth is going to be minor and slow and over a long period of time, they could probably achieve that with their consoles more effectively than they could seemingly doing this. But then again, there is the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is, well, how do we know that if they were to decide to just, like, go all in, so to speak, and just go for it, how do we know that wouldn't massively accelerate their growth? They don't know that either, but it seems they're not. I don't know. It seems like they're not going to be willing to take that risk. I could be wrong, and I need to emphasize that. I don't know exactly what Sony's planning on doing, but I'll tell you what, like, my takeaway from seeing this last corporate report is certainly not, guys, you should expect that Venom's going to be a day one Xbox game. And also, I totally forgot to mention this. I completely forgot to mention this. There is also the fact that the timing of this is coming around the same time we're getting all these leaks and reports about next gen. We're hearing, you're seeing it. I'm sure Sony is somewhat aware, maybe. I don't know how much they actually pay attention to it, but surely they're somewhat aware of, like, you're seeing console players talking about how they can't wait to play your games on another console. And they're waiting for, and that's because of PC. They can't wait to play The Last of Us on the next Xbox. They can't wait to play Wolverine when it eventually goes to PC on the next Xbox. I really do wonder, like, if Sony is, we've talked about this, like, will they change their PC-oriented strategy because of the next Xbox offering Steam? I came to the conclusion, maybe I came to it too soon. I mean, really, we don't actually know yet, but my assumption is no, it's not. My assumption is that Sony's absolutely going to continue to bring games to PC, and they're not going to care if it's on this Xbox hardware because they're just going to count that as PC. Maybe something changed. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe something behind the scenes changed. Maybe there's a pivot in Microsoft's strategy. Maybe Sony became aware of that. Maybe this is them reacting to it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how deep it goes. But, the longer I speculate, the higher the chance is that I'm going way out there. So just to reel it back in, It's probably just the fact that they look at that 2% and they're like, that's not good. Just like simply put, like that's not good. We should probably spend less time focusing on this. It's probably that simple. The logic I don't think is that difficult to follow, you know? But you do just have to wonder if it goes beyond that, if it is deeper than that, what could be the underlying reason? And we have Icracy, I think that's how you say it. I almost said iCrusty for some reason. A member for 12 months. Thank you for that, buddy. Saying, I just hope Insomniac is done with Marvel licenses after. Thank you. After Spider-Man 3. The license fee is too much, and I want Insomniac to try to make a new IP. Well, yeah, Insomniac and Sony are kind of on the razor's edge to a degree with the licensing deals that they have with Marvel. And well, I don't want to say the razor's edge, but it's a high risk ultimately, where the whole idea of what makes let me take a step back. These deals that Sony makes, because it goes just beyond licensing, but just these deals that they make in general, they're all based on like high volume, essentially. Very high sales. I know it's not exactly the same, but if you look at why the deal that Sony had with Square Enix completely broke down, it's because it was clear that Sony and Square were in agreement that like, dude, we're gonna be selling millions and millions and millions of copies. Like we're gonna be doing big numbers, and that just didn't happen. And that didn't happen for like multiple titles in a row. And when that reality unfolded, it broke down the deal because it's like, okay, yeah, like this is now becoming a detriment to both of us. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you see Sony continue, if you see Insomniac continue with Marvel even beyond Spider-Man 3, it's going to be because it's doing well. It's making them a lot of money and it's working well for both parties. If it was not working, it would have ended by now. Or if something does happen, like if Wolverine flops or something, it could end it. But I think it's just that, Insomniac, they seem to be doing well with this licensing agreement. Certainly well enough. I think that Sony was just a little bit distraught at like how much did it cost to make Spider-Man 2? And they seemingly went like well over budget. They still made money, but it's just like, going over budget is always something that Sony's going to have to pay attention to. Where it's like, well, what is the cause of going over budget, and how can it be justified? But I would say mostly for Spider-Man 2, it probably all was mostly justified because again, it made them good money. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Wolverine is the big one. I think Wolverine is the big one that, because of the leak, because of a lot of things that I think have worked against this game, it's going to need to have a little bit more of of a splash. And it's also not like Wolverine is not Spider-Man. I think for Wolverine, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, if I'm misremembering, but if I recall, in that Insomniac hack, it seemed like there was a chart that said, and it's not that it seems, but it said that Wolverine would need to sell about 6 million to break even, and anything after that is profit. And to break even, that accounts for the licensing deal as well. I think it was Wolverine, pretty sure. And that's what made, I think, a lot of people go, holy shit, like that's a lot. Like 6 million is a lot. Especially it being an exclusive, right? So it's got to do that on, although maybe that would count an eventual PC port. But in order for it to just break even, it has to hit 6 million to justify any of it. And that's what I mean by a high risk, because it's like, well, is Wolverine going to be a 10 million seller? Wolverine is a very popular character. I think that there's a lot of people who play on PlayStation that would absolutely buy a Wolverine game, certainly. But Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine's Wolverine. Um, I would say that Wolverine certainly has a overall smaller demographic compared to Spider-Man. So it also, I think, has that kind of working against it, where you have that, you have the hack, you have just the fact that some people are automatically assuming this game's going to. I mean, I'm already seeing people out here trashing Wolverine. It's like, well, you know, we'll see how it does. I think they'll be able to justify it. I think it'll make sense. At least I hope it will. Like, the last thing I want to see is an underwhelming Wolverine game. I don't think. I have a feeling Insomniac's cooking, bro, and I think that we're going to be delighted. I do. I think anybody who's been anticipating Wolverine, my assumption is we're going to be delighted with what we see. By the way, a thought that I had when thinking about Wolverine, getting a little bit, straying away from the original topic, talking about the multi-format thing. Wolverine is seemingly going to get that PS5 Pro update that we talked about yesterday. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, dude, Wolverine may end up being the best looking game we ever see from PlayStation up till this point. With that big PS5 Pro upgrade, Insomniac. I mean, dude, they're at the forefront of always trying to push this stuff for PlayStation. Just saying, might look absolutely insane. And they probably want to do that too. That Insomniac was feeling burned. Ray trace clause, there you go. Insomniac was feeling burned with those leaks, bro. People like clowning on the game because it's like not even a pre-alpha build. It's just literally in development, an in-development build that only devs are supposed to see. They're pissed at people clowning how the game looked. I think that they have a chip on their shoulder and they're going to try to push the limits of how good a game can look, man. Maybe I'm wrong, but Insomniac really carried this gen. I mean, definitely the best acquisition Sony's made. Well, yeah, I'm not saying it won't be pro enhanced. I'm just emphasizing that even when we look at PS5 Pro games now, Dark Cloud, for as good as they look, like Wolverine will be, I think, the first party, or it could be Saros, actually. So Saros could actually end up being the best game we see up till that point. But Wolverine is going to be the first, really high budget game from a studio that's known to have to try to make strides in graphical technology. That's going to be able to really leverage this upgrade, I think, really meaningfully. And that's exciting to me. That's actually really exciting because, shit, man. Yeah, I want the game to look as good as it can. Wait, what? What does that even mean? Enjoy your 120 FPS museum games? What? I think Saros is technically a AAA game, but it's not like a massive budget AAA game. I think it's on the lower end, budget wise, of what a AAA would be. But yeah, to kind of round out this topic and close it out, because I don't really think there's that much left to be said on it. I think we're just going to want to pay attention. Right now, let me just put this out here because I have said numerous times my analysis, my opinion. My final thought for now on this specific topic regarding Sony being multi-format and removing the revenue from their corporate report, my read on this is they are signaling to their investors that this is no longer really important to us as a company and our future growth prospects. It's not really an important part of our strategy. That, to me, is what they're signaling. And really, it's going to take some time to figure out if I'm correct with that or if I'm wrong. I'm prepared to be wrong, obviously. But that's what I'm taking away from that, because it's been a little while since Sony has announced any PC ports from, unless I'm wrong on that. I don't think they've announced anything recently. We know that they have like Marathon's coming out. That's going to be multi-platform. You know, they're sticking with Bungie. They called Marathon the highly anticipated. I mean, it's just like, bro, come on. You could tell Sony's really trying to hold on to the live service stuff, man, without completely just caving and being like, it was a fail. All right. So when it comes to their live service stuff, I'm assuming that not much is going to change there. It seems like, yeah, live service games will probably be day one PC. It's clear that their live service games can be day one on PC, and it has no negative impact on their console sales. But outside of that, I think they might be slowing their roll. I think they might just be like, look, man, we just really got to focus on selling our own console. And that's not a bad thing. I don't see that as a bad thing. I understand that people are going to get frustrated at that because they're like, I want Sony to go multi-platform, and I don't want to have to worry about buying Sony consoles or anything. But, I think this is just them signaling to their investors that they're gonna continue to focus on and re-emphasize what is making them money. So if there's something else that we can anticipate out of nowhere, I'll cover it and I'll let you guys know, but we'll see. We'll see. Sony's been a little bit, Sony has low key been all over the place. Sony's low, like they've just continued to speak corporate and be very straightforward while simultaneously being vague. It's like this weird dichotomy where it's like they're saying things pretty clearly, but there's also a vagueness where it's like it feels like they give you one answer and it leads to like three more questions that we just don't get answered, and we just have to like see. Okay, I guess we'll see. So many assumptions still have to be made, and I think that's by design. I think that they don't want to promise anything. I think that they don't want to overcommit to anything, so that way if something changes at the last minute, they're not like burned for it, public perception wise. But we'll continue to monitor this and see what happens. But there you go. Sony removed it from their corporate report, and they re-emphasized the focus on their own console and their own ecosystem. So we'll take it from there. We'll see what happens. But we do have to move to the final main topic of discussion. And before we do that, I want to ask you guys to please take a moment and hit that like button. We are sitting at 110 likes. Let's see if we can bump that up to 125 on Mark Cerny dating sim. Oh, man. Well, that doesn't... I mean, that would have to be multi-platform. We do have one last topic to go over, and it has to do with Intergalactic, as well as a new Last of Us game potentially being teased. So this is being reported by Push Square. They say Naughty Dog boss Neil Druckmann seems desperate to talk about his team's next big project, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. In an interview with Variety, he also chats about his decision to step back from the Last of Us TV show and focus on games. He said the upcoming sci-fi exclusive is the most ambitious his studio's ever made. Quote, what can I say and not say? I can tell you that we are in the thick of it. We're making it. We're playing it. We're firing on all cylinders. I've said this before, but I really mean it. I'm really feeling it right now. It's the most ambitious game we've ever made. It's the most expansive game we've ever made. Maybe the most... Wait, no. Let me try this again. It's the most expansive game we've ever made, and maybe the most expensive by the time we finish it. Okay, so it's expansive and expensive. So that's what he said about Intergalactic. And, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because people, I think, you see a little bit of people are a little bit antsy. They're like, all right, you're talking a big game, show it. Show it. And I think again, you kind of get the sense from Neil Druckmann that he definitely wants to, but it's up to Sony. Druckmann also confirmed that longtime collaborator Troy Baker is in the game, although he did not elaborate on his role. However, he did confirm that Baker was part of Tati Gabriel's audition, which helped her to land the role of Jordan A. Munn. He said, quote, I pitched her the story as it was at the time, and we kind of walked through it beginning, middle, and end, and I explained what her role would be. I asked her if she'd be willing to audition, and she was. We had her on stage, and I asked Troy to come in and read with her. So she read against Troy Baker. We were just very confident that that is our Jordan A. Munn. Druckmann also touched on the challenges of writing a sci-fi story compared to something a little bit more grounded like The Last of Us, where the rules of the universe are a little bit more defined. Quote, here we have not only come up with the universe and what are the rules of the universe, what's this history? Because we're jumping 2,000 years in an alternate future. We also have to figure out the lore of this planet, Simperia, that Jordan, our hero, ends up on and has to work to escape from, end quote. The next question is, so when will we see more of the game? Neil Druckmann says, quote, as far as when we're going to show stuff, I'm so antsy to show it and talk about it because the trailer that we showed wasn't even scratching the surface of what this game actually is. But announcing a game like this, especially when it's a new IP, especially when it's coming from Naughty Dog, we've got to coordinate with marketing, with PR, and with a bunch of people. So it would be foolish for me to say when we're going to show something right now. So I think he basically just confirmed it that like he absolutely would show the game, but it's he's basically saying like it's up to Sony. I can't tell you. Is that Hugh Jackman on my shirt? No. I think it is just one planet, Michael. Yeah, I think it's just one planet. If there's going to be more, they're definitely hiding that. They're saving that. But there's something else here. So that's basically what he had to say about Intergalactic. And then it says here, 2 months ago, we learned that Neil Druckmann would dial back his involvement with the TV series. Now speaking to Variety, he clarified why that happened, and he also managed to tease some new Last of Us things in the process. Quote, it was right when we were about to start in the writer's room for season 3. I looked at what's in front of me. What would the next season look like? And with all the various Last of Us things I'm working on, not just the show, with all the various games I'm working on, the biggest one that takes up most of my time is Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet, our next big IP for Naughty Dog and PlayStation. Felt like I could better serve all of my responsibilities if I stayed at a higher level. And so he just seemingly straight up, I don't know, man. It almost sounds like he just straight up tells you that there's another Last of Us game. He says, quote, there's more stuff happening in the Last of Us world that hasn't been announced, end quote. That is apparently another quote from Neil Druckmann from this interview. And it's just like, it's obviously not The Last of Us Part 3. It's obviously not that because he's the director on Intergalactic. And he, if there's going to be a Last of Us Part 3, he's clearly going to be directing that. This might be and a lot of people have speculated this might be like some kind of Uncharted The Lost Legacy situation, but for The Last of Us, where there's going to be a kind of little spin-off. And if I'm not mistaken, in one of the Grounded interviews that I think it was Grounded Part 2 or the making of The Last of Us Part 2, I think it was confirmed that they wanted to do something. I think it was like a prequel with Tommy, maybe Tommy and Joel. I don't know if I'm making this up. I swear that this is what they said, that, or was it Left Behind? Yeah, I don't know. Irfan, where you at, man? He knows. Irfan knows everything. Tommy's voice actor said he was working on something. All we know is that Neil said there will be a third chapter. No, I didn't see that, Web5 Gamer. You don't want a prequel after knowing Joel's fate? Let me see. I'm looking it up now. Okay, here we go. Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann confirmed the story was written for Tommy, a smaller spin-off, not necessarily a full game, but it was shelved for higher priorities like work-life balance. While not envisioned as a full title, there is a possibility it could be released as a game at some point in the future, though there's no official confirmation of its development. Regarding a Joel game, there's been no official confirmation or discussion from Naughty Dog about a game focused solely on Joel. So yes, I heard about. I remember hearing that. Yeah, I think it was in the Grounded 2 or the Last of Us making, one of the Last of Us making of Last of Us documentaries. Neil Druckmann, that's what he said. He said that we were going to do a kind of standalone thing for Tommy, but it ended up getting shelved. And he says because of work-life balance. And he says shelved. And that implies that like they could go back to it. So here's the follow-up. Hold on. So here we go. Naughty Dog is developing a second unannounced game in addition to Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, and it's reportedly being directed by Sean Eskag. This project has been in development for approximately 3 years and is a full AAA title, though its genre and specifics are unknown at the time. Eskag previously directed the Uncharted spin-off Lost Legacy. And Neil Druckmann is producing this game. Not directing it, he's producing it. So there's like a few things here. So maybe it's not the Tommy game because it was made pretty clear. Saying Neil talked about the possibility of a prequel. He said there is more stuff coming in the Last of Us universe, but that could mean literally anything. Spin-offs, expanding stories, prequels. Yeah, Neil doesn't straight up confirm it's a Last of Us game. He says there's more stuff coming with The Last of Us. Now, I have to really question, like, what else could it be that would really be worth teasing? Because we already have the HBO show. Maybe it could be like a spin-off HBO series. But I just have to really wonder, like, this has to be the second game. It has to be. Because the more you think about it, Sony's letting Naughty Dog take the biggest risk they could with Intergalactic. Massive quadruple A, essentially, new IP that we hope will do well, but it's a new IP, it's a risk. They have a second game in development. What do we think that second game is? That has to be some type of Last of Us game, dude. It has to be. Because even think about the fact that Naughty Dog worked on a Last of Us multiplayer game for 4 years just for it to get canceled. Like, they have all these assets. They have 4 years worth of assets being built. All of San Francisco, that's where the game was going to take place. They built that just to not do anything with it. I think look, maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, but I feel pretty confident in saying that the second game from Naughty Dog is not The Last of Us Part 3, but it is a Last of Us game that Neil is not directing, he's producing, and that's I think that's what he's teasing here. I think that's what he's teasing. Um that's my guess. Yeah, that's the only other thing that gives me a little bit of pause is people have been saying for a while that maybe it's Uncharted. Maybe Uncharted makes more sense. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to deny. It's really hard to deny that it could just as well be an Uncharted, but I don't know, man. I feel like Naughty Dog and Sony as a whole have been way more aggressive with The Last of Us than they have Uncharted. Uncharted, the way Naughty Dog has treated Uncharted is, I mean, let's face it, for like the past decade, they basically have treated it like we're done. Like we're done with it. They've always emphasized that in their interviews. Now, at the same time, though, like it's such a big property and such a big seller. And you have to also wonder, like, if other developers at Naughty Dog want to make, if they want to make another Uncharted. It's worth noting, like, people have been screaming at Sucker Punch for years, are like, why aren't you making a new Sly Cooper? And the director at the studio recently just said, like, probably less than 10% of people in the studio want to make a new Sly Cooper. And that's what's so funny is like people always wonder like why aren't we getting these things? And I've always tried to tell people like Sony listens to the devs, like they let them pitch their games. Sony doesn't tell them what to make. They just make suggestions. And it's so funny that like we hear directly from the studio themselves. It's like, yeah, we don't want to make this. And so what I'm trying to highlight here is that these studios are made up of a lot of hundreds of people where they decide this is what we want to make. Like what are we most excited about to make? And I just feel like with Naughty Dog, it's you know, a lot of it's been The Last of Us. They like making Last of Us content, clearly. So you could maybe see a reality where they considered maybe bringing back Uncharted, but it's like, all right, we have the capacity to do two games. What should we do? Let's do a new one. And, maybe there's a whole nother section of their team that's like, we really want to make something in the world of The Last of Us. And I'll be honest, like there's a part of me that wants a new Last of Us game. Not necessarily, I mean, part 3 would be super interesting just to see where they go with that. But to be honest, I think a different game, like maybe it's not about Tommy or something. Maybe it's a new character. Maybe it's just a flat out spinoff featuring new characters, a completely different cast, set in a different part of the world. I mean, that would be, to be honest, that would be fucking awesome. But now that I've said that, it's probably going to be the opposite and not awesome. So, but you could see how that would work, That would, because keep in mind, Sony's whole thing is they want to expand The Last of Us. In fact, I don't have it up here in front of me right now, but that corporate report that Sony put out, there was an entire section, it was a PDF. There was an entire page dedicated to highlighting, it said expanding the world of The Last of Us. That's literally what it was called. Expanding the world of The Last of Us. And I'm just really thinking that like maybe we are going to see that in games because it starts with games. But maybe this is where it's like we need to make a different type of Last of Us game. It doesn't have to be just about Joel and Ellie and Abby and Levi. Like it could go and it could go in a whole different direction. And if they want to expand the IP, that's something they should consider. And it sounds like it's something they're doing. So, there is a bit of wishful thinking here on my part. I do want to see this. It would be cool to get a new Last of Us game that is something different, even if it is like a prequel or spinoff for like Tommy or something. They need to focus on their number one game, Horizon, exploring Aloy. Dude, you know what's funny is you've seen Gorilla do that. Like they've been going too crazy with Horizon. Like people are asking them to please slow down with it. Maybe they need a crossover. They need a crossover game. I don't know how you make that work. Bluepoint certainly needs to work on something, either more remakes or new entries in a legacy IP. One idea that came up was in Anagame, Ellie's mom. Druckmann wrote a short story about her after the original game released. That would be interesting. Yeah, they kind of explored that in the last episode, I believe, of season 1 of The Last of Us HBO. You know, the more I think about it, I would just really love to see something new and completely fresh. That would be cool. Because I feel like when you think of the Last of Us universe, you do think of these characters, and there's a lot of characters. But I've always said that the universe of the Last of Us, like that world, is super interesting. And that was one of the reasons I was so stoked for the Last of Us multiplayer game, was because I thought, like, this is going to be the first time we really start to see a real expansion where it's like something outside of this cast of characters and see what else is out there and what it's like in other parts of the world. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited for The Last of Us multiplayer. And I think, you know, it's like I said, they built that for 4 years. And I think it's pretty clear that Neil Druckmann and the entire Naughty Dog team was very happy with what they were building with The Last of Us multiplayer. And this is an important thing to highlight. They were very happy with it, but it was just they didn't want to be a live service studio. They didn't want to run a live service product. So when you think about all that and you consider all that, it's like, yeah, they probably were like, how can we make this fit? Like, can we do something? Like, can we just make a regular game with this that's not a multiplayer? Maybe it's not that simple. Maybe I am oversimplifying it greatly, but it's just the fact that you have 4 years worth of work from one of the most talented teams, one of the most talented video game studios in the world. Sure, you know, surely they could probably do something with it. No, I will never recover from that, Irfan. No. It's always going to haunt me. Mm. Wow, that's insane. They could do Last of Us Texas chapter or a New York chapter. I mean, I'm even saying like just go somewhere else in the world completely, you know? That would be pretty cool. Japan or something, I don't know. Yeah, I did play the Marvel Tokon beta. It was pretty good. It was funner than I expected. Yes, this is also true, Dark Cloud. Oh, you know what? That's probably what it is. Shit. I think you're right. It's going to be a Last of Us anime. Of course that's what it is. That's all it is. All right. Well, that's a wrap. We figured it out. All right. So another quote that's been circulating, and I saw that Push Square was highlighting this, and this actually maybe goes back to our last conversation, but I want to point this out. You know, for the past couple years, Sony's put such a major emphasis on live service, and you know, I think Sony is finally becoming aware of the fact that they maybe did a little bit of damage to their reputation, or at least the perception of the brand, and they're starting to try to like rectify that, because Push Square is also reporting that PlayStation says, and this was again in their corporate report, that they quote, aim to advance their position as creative leaders in single player experiences, end quote. And that's something that they led with. And I know, again, it seems a little bit, you know, a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. I'm just saying, man, I'm trying to pick up what they're putting down here. I think maybe this is their low key way of trying to let us know that maybe they got the message. Maybe they finally got it. Maybe Marathon and the clusterfuck that it turned out to be was like the final straw for them. Now, of course, they still talk about live service. They're not going to completely abandon that, but um, I think they're just saying some of the right things here that these things need to be said. I think, we shouldn't have to say them for Sony, right? Like, I shouldn't have to tell somebody, like, no, they still care about single player games and care about making good single player games. That's just something that should be obvious. And unfortunately, I think for public perception, a lot of people don't see that, or it isn't obvious to them. So it's like, yeah, Sony, start saying some of this shit. Because I'm getting tired of saying it for you. I shouldn't have to. Nobody should have to. Oh, that's their next earnings call. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm more interested than ever before in hearing what they have to say, because they're clearly moving stuff around behind the scenes and changing things literally on a quarterly basis. So yeah, man. You think it's just us? It might just be us, yeah. 0 Point, you think the silence is killing it? Well, we'll see what they end up doing with this upcoming show. Depending on what they do, I mean, they do have Ghost of Yotei coming. So regardless of what this show ends up being like, they're going to have a big first party title dropping. How it's going to review, how people are going to respond to it. It's hard to say right now. But there's no denying, like, this is the big one for them this year outside of Death Stranding 2. And so I think it's going to be a combination of how that does for them and how it reviews and how people are talking about it and what type of show they put on. And I would like to think that no matter what, by the time we get to like the second week of October, people will have something good to say about PlayStation, where it's like, oh yeah, they had a great show, or they showed us something exciting that I really wanted to see. Or, I'm enjoying Ghost of Yotei. We're both, right? New Halo PS5 rumor on Reddit. Definitely not what I was expecting to see. Let me see. Really quick, apparently 2 hours ago, a Silent Hill F review leaked. And it's from DualShockers. They gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Holy shit. We got like a masterpiece coming or something? What's going on? 9.5 out of 10, bro. Let's see. This comes from Nate the Hate. Somebody says, what's going on with Microsoft Flight Simulator on PS5? Any news? Nate the Hate. Nate the Hate responds, still arriving on PS5. Hopefully news lands soon. And then somebody else says Halo ? Nate the Hate says, no update. I'm unsure if the layoffs had any impact on that release. Okay. Well, really curious to see what happens. Yeah, that's how Sony will end the state of play. With a Halo announcement. Could you imagine that? I think PlayStation fans would be confused. as to whether or not that's a win or a loss. You know, I would be confused. I'd be like, I don't like that's good. I think nah, that would suck. I'm sorry. Like that would suck. That'd be an awful final announcement. It'd be a disgraceful final announcement from Sony. Here you go, guys. We know you've been waiting for the big event. Here's Halo. Irfan says it would straight up be horrific. Irfan would pass out, wake up the next day, be like, what happened? Didn't you hear the news? Halo on PlayStation. What about Wolverine? There is no Wolverine. Canceled. Jake, you're telling me you sent me, let me see. Oh yeah, we covered that, Jake, where Gears of War, according to Alinea Analytics, Gears of War Reloaded in its first week, I think, sold 260,000 units, which is not good. At least, I mean, that doesn't sound very good to me. Shony ends the show with Flight Sim VR. Dude, I don't know. It's just something YouTube rolled out. People were, apparently it just started happening on my channel today. Well, I don't know. Some people were saying it was happening for months for them. But this is the first time I've seen people talk about it on my channel. I guess it's just something YouTube decided on, which is just got a 5th ad in my chat. Yeah, I don't think they give me any setting for that, man. Because I'll look right now. Hold on. Monetization. Yeah, literally, I have it. Choose how mid-roll ads appear. Insert mid-roll ads manually. So I guess this is just what they're doing now. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, I don't know, guys. I guess I'm not going to tell you to subscribe to YouTube Premium, because I know for a lot of people they're not interested, and for a lot of people it probably doesn't make sense, but just try not to get too frustrated with it. I guess just try to look at it as it's helping the channel. I don't know. That's a little weird. I don't know why they're putting it in the chat though, man. That's a bit much. You're saying use the Bravo browser. I don't know. Somebody said that they use ad block and it's still coming through for them. So I don't know. YouTube seems to be doing everything they can to monetize every aspect of their platform that they possibly can, which, you know, it's like, okay, I get it. Like I can benefit from that too. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, dude. Ghetto God, you're saying MBG ads over the chat are 10 times better than interrupting the stream with ads. That's true. Yeah. You know what? This would actually explain a lot. This would explain why YouTube kept asking me for feedback. And I kept telling them, like, I don't want to interrupt I don't want people to be watching the stream and then just suddenly, you know, and like you're being advertised to for 30 seconds and now you're on a delay or you missed 30 seconds of what I said. Yeah, I know they're doing that too anyway, if you have it turned on. But I guess this is kind of a workaround for that. And if I had to pick and choose, yeah, I guess I would pick that over, you know, people who are watching just straight up having it completely interrupted. They should do what Twitch does. When you sub, you get no ads. Oh, yeah, I don't know if Sony's ever going to do that. Or I said Sony. If YouTube's ever going to do that, that would be great. I think that'd be some real good incentive, like truly good incentive for people to become members. But yeah. Well, wait, you're saying Twitch used to do that? Are you saying they don't do it anymore? Yeah, this too is Sony's fault. Sony, how could you? How could you? I mean, I don't know. I haven't used Twitch in a while. I don't know if they still do it or not. People are saying just scroll down. Hmm. Well, yeah, Twitter does ads too. I guess we're just at that point, you know. Anything that can be monetized will be monetized. All right. Okay. Um yeah, Reddit. I see it on Reddit all the time as well. Yeah, this is Microsoft's fault actually. How could you, Microsoft? How dare you? All right. Well, let me see where we're a little over the 2 hour mark on the stream here. I think I pretty much covered the topics I wanted to discuss with you guys. I guess at this point we could just kind of chat for a little while. Maybe till we hit the 2.5 hour mark. Oh, I do need to let you guys know. I should have mentioned this earlier when I had more people here. There may be no content tomorrow at all. I have to see how the day goes. Mrs. MBG has a procedure she has to get done, and I'm going to be, helping her with that. So it's going to be it depends on, it's not like a super serious procedure. We don't know how she's going to be afterwards. So it's a hit or miss thing. There's a 50-50 chance I may be able to do something tomorrow, and if I do, yeah, they'll announce the state of play. The state of play will happen tomorrow. No, a showcase will happen tomorrow. But yeah, we'll see how it goes because she's she's got some stuff going on with her back and whatnot, and so she's nervous about tomorrow. But the good news is this procedure is supposed to help. It's supposed to help her with pain and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, they'll that's when they'll announce the state of play. Family comes first, bro. No worries, I'm missing a day or two. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I know you guys are not just here for me, but support me and my family and what I do here. And that's one of the benefits is when something like tomorrow pops up, I don't have to stress too much, I mean, I'm always worried, of course. Because I'm always worried about I try to balance it out and take some time off where I can, especially because I'm already chronically online as it is. But you guys always pull through for me. No, it's not that crazy. PS default. Yeah, nothing too crazy like that. Thank you, Lady Gamer. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We're a little nerve wracking. And bro, Silent Spartan, dude. Silent Spartan, bro. My God, man. He's like, here you go. No worries. Here's 50 membership gifts. He drops another 50 on you guys. Yeah, by the way, Silent Spartan, I responded to your your comment you left, because I appreciate that, and I was getting some good comments from my last community post definitely got some divisive comments, but I got some really nice comments too from people. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Silent Spartan, for just the insane support that you've been showing the channel and the community and my family. I mean, it's really been a huge difference maker. So thank you for that, man. Really, sincerely.
Holy shit.
I don't know how you do it, bro. I don't. But the fact that, you could support anyone or anything, and you choose to come here and support me in this community, that means a lot, bro. So thank you so much for that. And bro, I gotta do, bro. I gotta do reps. I almost got out of it. I was like, you know what? This is looking like a stream where I'm not gonna have to do reps. I'm a little bit sore. I did a proper workout after we did those reps on stream yesterday. I had like too much coffee on yesterday's stream. And so like at the end, I don't know if it was coming through on camera or not. I'm like feeling the jitters real bad. And he drops another 5 bomb for you guys. 55. He drops a 55 bomb on you guys. That might be the first 55 bomb we've ever received. I'm not sure. Surely not. I don't know. Somebody probably did that before. But Silent Spartan, dude, thank you so much, man. Yeah, you came in here and you dropped 70 yesterday, too. You've been doing some heavy lifting for the community. Wes says crazy heavy lifting. He's going crazy. I'll give Boss a few more treats. I don't think he deserves it, though. Should I give Boss a few more? Okay, I'm going to give him a few more. He just scratched my leg. I know. He's hurting me now. Now he's not asking anymore. Boss isn't asking anymore. Shem says 15 more days. Shem's every year waits for my birthday. He always does a little birthday gift for me. Dude, it's crazy. I don't know how I've talked about this earlier in the year, maybe recently too. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but bro, I don't understand where the time's going. Like I really don't. I am it feels literally like last week was February. I think that's a good thing, right? Isn't that a good thing? I mean, they say when you get older, time goes by faster, or at least your perception of time. Okay. All right. By the way, yeah, Mrs. MBG she wanted me to tell you thank you, Silent Spartan, for the support you've been showing to the channel, and for everybody else as well. If you dropped any support whatsoever, you guys are real ones, honestly. But yeah, dude, I can't believe it's already almost like we're in the middle of September. I saw somebody ask a little bit ago, by the way. They asked if I beat MGS3 yet. I literally am in the final boss fight now. And I'm going to have to see if I'm going to platinum it. There's some stuff that's definitely going to... Getting those, the Keraton frogs is going to be very annoying. And the ducks, the geckos. Your channel has been a huge source of positivity for me over the years. Every day, 6:30 p.m. time, I'm like, it's MBG time. So while I can't support you like others, all I can say is thank you. Well, no, dude, Irfan, I appreciate it, bro. You've already made it clear, too. It's not even your fault, you know? It's just where your region, your territory, bud. I appreciate it, man, and that always makes me feel good. You know, the fact that there are people who really look forward to what I do here. It's easy for me to lose sight of that, you know, and take it for granted. Just means Christmas comes faster each year, and that's always a comforting thought. Yeah, that's true. Um, we just got Mrs. MEG just bought a Halloween shower curtain for the first time, and our son he was loving it. It's like glow in the dark. As soon as she came home with it, she like just did the bathroom up. We love Halloween. Halloween's like our I don't know. I think it's like a tie between Halloween and Christmas. No offense to Thanksgiving, but I love Halloween. I think one of the biggest reasons I love Halloween is because fall is my favorite season, and I know that's Mrs. MBG's favorite season too. Our birthdays are in fall, um, but yeah, she loves Christmas too, and she goes all out every Christmas, decorating and getting like Christmas pajamas for the family and stuff. Christmas is always a good time. Metacritic says the review embargo for Silent Hill the 22nd. Well, Eternal, how could there be a leaked review then? If the embargo, what did they beat? Did they beat it already and review it a week before the embargo even lifts? Robert, you're saying you literally are walking on your grass barefoot and it feels awesome? He's literally touching grass, guys. Said you'd get us all pizza for Halloween. Was this true? Remember the Halloween pizza party? Yeah, thank you so much for that, Sound Spartan. I appreciate that, bro. It's very, very kind of you. Yeah, we have a lot of really, really great people here. And, it's why I always get a little bit uncomfortable when I see strife in the community or any kind of division. Like, it's like the last thing I'm trying to do. Even when it comes to the whole PlayStation versus Xbox thing, I know that that'll never go away. But I think at this point, everybody just realizes, like, it's not, I would hope it's not serious for anybody. Like, it's mostly just for fun. But at the end of the day, man, you know, I think people who've been watching my channel for a long time, you probably have seen how I've changed a little bit over time as well. And I think that's normal. I think everybody kind of changes a little bit. But I just appreciate everybody who's been, sticking around. And we've gotten some new people here as well. But yeah, a big part of the overall trajectory of this channel, no doubt about it, is what PlayStation's going to do, right? I mean, that's the name of the game pretty much. I know that a lot of people are here for me, no doubt about that, which I very much appreciate. People are here for me, and like definitely get people that tune in to some other auxiliary content that make that clear. But at the end of the day, man, this is a channel that's centered around PlayStation, and it's really, really interesting to see how much has changed for this brand and this platform. I assume everybody who tunes into the channel plays on it to some degree, and I'm just curious to see if Sony can get back to that. I don't know what you would call it, but I guess just creating a more positive feel for the platform, because I think a lot of people that are still here, they feel that positivity and they're still enjoying it. I'm one of those people, but I'm just curious. I think as our many people are as well. We want to know what's next. What is next? Because let's face it, dude. Once Ghost of Yotei's out, literally, what's next, bro? We don't know. So I guess I'm just trying to say I've been awakened. Yeah, I'm enlightened. There could be some exciting things happening very soon. PS6 grift, let's go. We're gonna grift right to the PS6. No, what's really interesting though? I was thinking about that. Not the grift part, but the idea of like with the PS5, it was like the first time in a long time, maybe ever, where I really was paying attention. I mean, like locked in. I was there for the PS4 and the Xbox One, the 360, the PS3, and even earlier on to a much lesser extent with the PS2. Although the original Xbox, I was actually, at that time, I was more interested in the GameCube. The Xbox just wasn't a thing for me. But the PS5 and the Xbox Series generation was the first gen where I was lasered in, dude. And it's weird. I think it feels different for me, or I have a different perception because everybody says, man, this is like the worst gen or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe this gen just feels heightened for me because I've never been this engrossed in a generation before. And so the PS6 gen is going to be a really interesting thing to compare to, certainly. The state of play might be the first time that Nishino shows up. Oh yeah, that would be cool. Nishino seems like a cool dude. Like he seems like he actually has some idea of what PlayStation players actually do want. I kind of got that feeling with his presentation of the 30th anniversary lineup. Do you guys remember that? He did that video. I was like, man, this guy gets it. Seemingly, he gets it. He understands. He knows what the OG fans want with this lineup. Let's just say I'm currently questioning my financial decisions, but yes, I still play on PS5. You got to get on SilkSong. Speaking of locking in, yeah, I've been so. The one thing I saw about SilkSong, I should give it a shot. I've been hearing so many good things about it. I did have a question though. Do I have to play the original to jump into SilkSong? Or is it one of those things where it's like you can if you want, but it doesn't really matter? But I saw that VGC gave it 3 stars. And I think it caused like a big, like people were kind of like, bro, are you kidding me? And one of the reasons they gave it 3 stars was because of the difficulty. You don't think I would like it? You're saying no? Rain Silence Partner saying no, you don't have to play the original. Dan says you don't have to. Although Shems is saying maybe you don't play SilkSong if you did not play Hollow Knight. Lady Gamer, you're heading out. I appreciate you watching the stream. Yeah, we'll go for a little bit longer here. Someone beat SilkSong, all bosses, no damage. There's always that one weirdo. Like, how is that even possible? I saw, like, what's up with people beating Dark Souls games on dance mats getting no hit or doing no hit runs? It's like, what? Like, to me, that seems like a superhuman ability at that point. A kind of useless one. BGC made a lot of good points. It's not difficult, but it can be tedious at times. Yeah, I saw like this one clip circulating where it was like, here's what you have to do to get back to a boss battle, like a boss run. And it was like this crazy like navigation and like jumping around and shit. I'm like, oh yeah, that seems like if the boss is difficult and you keep dying, you got to go through that every single time. But didn't the developers recently say that they're going to like tone the game down or something? Hollow Knight is amazing and difficult. Start there. Eternal, you're saying you're glad Game Pass saved you money on it. Interesting. Pash says playing SilkSong right now, game of the year. Dude, Joshua, real quick, you're saying you're playing Chronos the New Dawn. It's a great heart. I feel bad for Bloober Team, dude. I just saw a report that that game only sold 200,000 units. And Bloober Team is talking to their investors, like saying, like, yeah, it's underperforming. Like it's not doing very well. And I'm like, now I'll admit, like, I'm a contributing factor to that. But I thought for sure, like, that game was like I thought it was going to do at least okay for sure, you know? Like, it had a lot of marketing. They kept showing it off, but that's kind of sad. Get some balance patches. That's why Elden Ring is peak. Stake America removes the annoyances. Yeah, I think I do. I have to. I'm like, I don't know. I'm in this weird space right now, truthfully, with like gaming, and I don't know why. Like, it's not like a bad space. It's not bad. I don't know if it's just because of what's going on around me at the moment or what, but like I'm playing Metal Gear and I feel it like I saw how many hours I put. Apparently I put like 25 hours in the Metal Gear and I'm like, how though? Like I was just like genuinely confused where I'm like, I feel like I only played it a couple times. And I haven't and I'm like just about to beat it now. But then I was looking over the I'm reaching this weird I'm in this weird crossroads where it's like I was looking over the trophies because I'm about to beat it for the first time and I'm like getting, a little bit emotional like as I'm getting towards the end where I'm like, "Oh man, this shit is hitting." Um, bringing back memories and all this stuff. I'm like, "Damn, this is." But seeing how amazing, I'm just constantly in like awe of how good it looks. It's like I would have never thought that this game that I'd be playing this game 20 years later and it would look this good. But then I'm like looking over the trophy list because I'm like trying to decide, like, yeah, I'll platinum this. And I'm looking it over and I'm like, I don't, I don't know. Like, do I want to do this? Because the one thing I know for sure is going to annoy the absolute shit out of me. It's always, and I know it's a game that it's an older game, and so it's got the 64 Karaton frogs and the 64 Gakko ducks, and I'm like, do I really want to do this? But then there's like that part of me where it's like, bro, are you kidding me? Of course you have to do this. Like out of all the no 0 point. So I don't know if you played MGS3, but basically in every single area of the game, because the game is like segmented to areas. There's like loading screens. Um, there's like a Keraton frog and a duck hidden in every area, and I know for a fact like I'm gonna have to watch a guide to get all of them. And it's just stuff like that where I'm like, man, as I get older, I'm really getting tired of doing that stuff for platinums. But there's still that itch. Yeah, I mean, I can watch a guide, but there's just that itch where it's like, if I choose, so because I was thinking like maybe I'll just walk away from the Metal Gear Platinum and pick up and start playing something else. Because at this point, you know, we're far enough away from Ghost where it's like I I could play something else in between. I could play Dying Light. I want to play Dying Light. I could play Chronos. I would like to play Chronos or Hollow Knight SilkSong. Give that a try. But that's the thing, is it's just like, if I were to go pick up another game right now, am I going to be sitting there being like, I really got to get that platinum for MGS though? Like I can't move on to this game and enjoy it until I finish Metal Gear. And Metal Gear's not going to be finished until I get all those trophies. They should remove trophies. I agree. I'm sick in the head because of it. I have a problem. I played Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2. I think I like Dying Light 1 significantly better. Dying Light 2 really lost me when you couldn't use firearms, or at least like most of the game you couldn't. And I don't know, there's something about Dying Light 2, it wasn't clicking with me the same way. Yeah, something about it. They made some changes, and I'm like, I don't know if this game was like, this is like they overthought it, like what this game should be. But everything I've seen of Dying Light the Beast looks like the opposite, where it's like kind of going back to what we want. I am disappointed to hear though that apparently Dying Light the Beast doesn't, as of right now, doesn't have a physical version. I think they said at some point they might try to figure out what to do, but they don't you know, they don't have one ready to go. Oh yeah, I forgot they had the health bars. Well, I will tell you this. Dillo, no, we talked about the Venom game. That was the first topic of discussion. I'm going to be wrapping the stream up soon because I did expend all my topics for the day. And I'm probably going to have to take off tomorrow. And we'll hopefully be back on Wednesday at the latest. Wait, Shems, what was your question? For some reason, Shems, it doesn't look like your question popped up. Bro, I don't know why. Shems, it literally says, because I'm looking at your activity, it says YouTube held your comment for review. Yeah, I'm going to play it, Shems. I'm going to play it. I told everybody. I told everybody that, look, man, without going too deep into it, I didn't quite anticipate that when I decided to talk about that, people took that very much as a political declaration. And looking back on it, it's like, okay, I guess I understand why. It wasn't meant to be that. But the thing that I kept saying over and over again is if Sucker Punch does something, to me, it doesn't matter what it is, but they need to do something to let me know that they're aware of what's going on and they're going to take some kind of action. As long as they do that, they will still have my support because that's truthfully, I feel like that's all I could reasonably ask for. And they did. They did. And, you know, this is where I'm saying, like, a lot of people are pissed at me. And I understand why. And I'm not, look, man, I'm not going to apologize for taking the stance I did because I know why I did. And I am a little bit surprised to see that a lot of people don't seem to understand why I did. But people who are like upset with me, it's like, look, man, I don't want to see the game do poorly. I don't put myself, and I think this is why some people are mad at me. I think people basically took that as I'm now going to be a radical individual where everything now I'm only seeing things through this singular lens. And now every game I talk about and every topic I talk about and everything going forward is just going to be viewed through that lens because we see that happen with many people. And we're not going down the rabbit hole. I'm just simply here to explain that that's not what this is. That's not what that was, and that's not what this is, and it's not what it will be. And I understand that with me tackling that the way I did, the whataboutisms present themselves. What about this? What about that? And I just try to be honest with people and let them know that, look, man, I'm just one person and I'm not connected to everything that's going on all the time. And I understand that there's no reason for me to make my moral stance on everything. I don't think anybody wants to do that because how can you do that reasonably? I don't think you can in today's day and age. There's simply too much information at any given time. But this was just one particular time where it felt, it felt pretty direct. It felt pretty direct and like this is something that I'm literally covering on my channel. And people were talking about like how come you're not boycotting like Microsoft or something? It's like, well, to be honest, because I'm not paying as much attention to Microsoft. I saw that they have a whole thing going on with their entire company. I don't know what that's about, but it seems like it's pretty fucking serious over there. And I'm like, yeah, I hope they do what they need to do. If it's that bad. But I'm not paying much attention. Like, I'm hearing about all these different Xbox developers. It's like, I get it, but I'm not paying nearly as much attention because I don't care as much. And that's just the truth, man. I don't care necessarily about Microsoft products as much. And that's the thing is I just think that in order for me to take a stance like that, it's got to be something that's pretty egregious, I would say. But I get a lot of people are like, well, why make all the devs suffer? Why make the entire team suffer because of one or two or three individuals that they can't control what they say? And, you know, there's the whole freedom of speech argument, and I get it. I understand all of it, mostly. I mean, there's a few things I've seen where I'm like, I don't understand where you're coming from, but generally speaking, I understand. And it's just like, look, man, I just can't help it. Like, there's just some shit where it's like, bro, this isn't about politics. Like, this isn't about race or gender or ethnicity. Or it's not about any of that. Like, this is just about, like, bro, it's about decency. That's all it's about. That's all that was about. But that's why it's like I thought I was being as fair as I could, you know, while being true to myself, which is like, I want to play your game. I think this game looks great. And I'm hyped for Yotei, dude. I'm hyped for Sucker Punch and because I haven't seen anything of the game that makes me go, whoa, I don't know about that. Everything I've seen, I'm like, this is up my alley, man. I like this. And then I saw this one thing and I'm like, I don't, you know, it made me take pause and take a big step back and be like, Sucker Punch, Sony, like, dude, like, what is that, man? You know, like, what is that shit? I saw, you know, somebody left me a comment and they were like, you know, you helped end somebody's career, like, or like, I hope you're happy about that or something or whatever. And it's like, dude, I wasn't the one saying that they need to be fired in order to make this okay. I wasn't the one saying that. But, you know, the reality is that person doubled and tripled down on what they said, even after they got fired. You know? And so it's like, I, I'm not happy about any of it. Because I said so is a perfectly valid response to all that nonsense. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like, it's it's getting it has gotten very crazy out there, man. People are truly coming undone. And it's freaking me out a little bit. It's freaking me out where it's like, dude, I understand now more than ever why people want to bury their head in the sand, because it's like, holy shit, it's becoming insane. It feels like a fucking civil war is about to erupt. And I don't know, like a cold civil war, is that a thing? I don't know what to call it, but I understand why a lot of people just want to avoid it, because it's hard. It's hard to reason with people when they are this passionate. And I'm using the term passionate loosely. Um, but I think you guys understand where I'm coming from. It's crazy out there, man. I wouldn't take any of that personally, bro. Personal accountability is lacking in youth today. And I'm not, you know, it's sometimes there's a few times I read a couple things where I'm like, damn. But then I just realized that it's like, you know what? The only thing I can do is just respect people's decisions. And I don't want to be that I don't want to be that type of hypocrite. I don't want to be a hypocrite in general, but I definitely don't want to be the type of person that's like, you need to respect my decision, but I'm not going to respect yours. I can't do that. Like, to me, that is what too many people do right now, you know? And yeah, I'm with you, Shems. And so, you know what? I am going to turn this back around, because I have one other thing I want to say about Metal Gear. This does actually pertain to Metal Gear a little bit. Because, you know, Metal Gear is a very political game. And it's so funny because people are like, I don't want politics in my games, but Metal Gear Solid's my favorite series ever, or one of my favorite series. And they're like, that's like one of the most political games. And as an adult, you know, as a 10-year-old kid playing MGS3, I didn't understand a lot of what was going on and what was being talked about. But in Metal Gear, yes, there's politics everywhere, dude. And Kojima's definitely riffing. He's riffing and he's going off, and but there's something in particular he did that I picked up on, where I'm like, oh, Oh, West. No, I didn't see that. Maybe I have to go check that out. You think cooler heads will prevail in the end? Spent the last 18 plus years in various war zones around the world, and it's not something the everyday American can stomach. I believe that. Yeah. Well, see, that's what's interesting. At least from your perspective, you're and you're not the only one. There are many people in the military where like they, and not even just the military for America, but anybody involved in conflict, like they see a certain level of real raw brutality of a true like a true breakdown of like this is the result of a real breakdown, and it leads to war and it leads to major conflict, and it's fucking terrifying. Um, you know, luckily I've never been involved in that, and I would hope I never have to be. Um, but like I said, I come from a military family, and I've been around enough people to know that it's it's crazy because it's like nobody ultimately seemingly wants it, you know, and yet it does continue. But not to get overly philosophical about it, but sometimes I do think like I was playing Metal Gear Solid 3 last night, and I'm at the very end of the game. And the very end of the game, or the final act of the game, is arguably when it starts to get the most political, because you have Volgin, who's the main villain of the game, and represents the Russians, and then you have Snake, the main protagonist of the game, representing the Americans, and Volgin goes on this big speech and has this whole monologue explaining what the philosopher's legacy is and what the philosophers are, and it's like the big main point of the game of like, this is why he's doing everything he's doing. And the boss is kind of in the middle here. Well, technically the boss, she defects and she goes to the Russian side. And ultimately the conversation is about capitalism versus communism. And the philosophers in this game represent true communism, which is a utopia in a sense, but how it cannot be perfected or maintained because it will always break down. And like the idea that the world can be won, but the only way the world can be won is by ruling with an iron fist and keeping people in check through fear or through, through means that basically are antithetical to the idea of living in peace. Peace by force, I guess you could say, um, or there's a different saying I think that people usually use in this instance. But Snake represents capitalism and the idea of like we have to be free to make our own choices, and he represents everything that the West represents, and it's just super interesting because when you get to the final battle with the boss, she does her own huge monologue. And it's so fascinating to me how like when I was young and playing this game, I kind of understood what she was saying and what Kojima in turn was trying to say through this game. Peace through strength. There we go. Thank you, Irfan. That's what I was looking for. And in the boss's like final monologue before you guys fight each other, and I know it's like spoilers for a 20-year-old game, but before you battle, she's basically explaining to Snake that you only have one choice ultimately. And like, because I really was thinking about this last night when I was watching this cutscene, and I'm like, there's something, there's like a deeper philosophical idea that Kojima's trying to get across in this game that transcends politics, and why when I think people look back at these games, they don't really hyper fixate on the politics, because ultimately what Kojima is saying through the boss and her speech to Snake is that, politics, capitalism, communism, the way of life, it's all ever changing. you know Conflict breeds more conflict. um today's winner is tomorrow's loser. Tomorrow's loser is today's winner, or the next day's winner. Or, you know, all that shit. But really, what she's saying is the only actual choice you have is to either fight or don't, and essentially die. You know, and that's what's so incredible to me. That's what makes a lot of the themes of Metal Gear Solid 3, and especially that ending, it holds up so well because, you know, Snake is just like, why? Like, he's like, why do I have to fight you? And she's just, it's like, it will only be one way, because what she's trying to teach Snake is that this is life. That no matter where you go, and that's why she says that one line that she says that really sticks with me. I'm probably not doing an exact quote, but she says, whoever leaves here today will inherit the title of boss and will be, you know, will go on, the survivor will go on to live a lifetime of battle. And basically, like, whoever doesn't, like, whoever loses is going to find peace. And, you know, it does delve into that deep philosophical nature of life, of like, even just being alive. And if you're alive and you're breathing and you're part of planet Earth and you're part of humanity, there's always a fight. Always, you know? May not be like literally directly through, you know, being part of a military in that sense, but everybody's fighting battles. To be alive is to fight a battle, right? To survive is to fight, right? And that's what I just found so interesting and really kind of eye-opening in a sense, where it was like when I was 10 years old playing this game and listening to these monologues and trying to understand. It's like something did come through where it's like I could feel it. I couldn't quite understand it all, but now, as I'm much older, yeah, baby MBG, right? As I'm much older, not only do I still feel it, but I understand it more than ever. I understand it completely and entirely. And it's really great. No, I never skipped a cutscene, bro. I was really bad with that, actually. I would replay the game and still watch the cutscenes. And yeah, it was like one of my most played games because of that. But I just found it really interesting because I do feel like what Metal Gear Solid 3 is trying to say, ultimately, it really is still, I mean, it's more relevant, I would say, now than it even was back in 2004 when it first came out. And then, you know, you just got to really give Hideo Kojima and the team that made that game a ton of credit, man, because it really is a masterpiece. Like, even though I haven't gotten to the final cutscenes yet, you know, the little twist at the end. We don't talk about that, Shems. This is serious. I just love it, though. I just love that, like, there's a greater, deeper theme in MGS3 that it really comes together almost perfectly at the end. And I don't know, man. It's hard to explain, but if you've played MGS3, I'm curious to know. I don't think there's anybody in the chat right now. You can tell me. I'm curious to know how people who are playing this game for the first time, like, what they think of it, because it's like, yeah, man. Like, when you experience the story in MGS3 for the first time, especially the ending, it's like, holy shit. It hits, bro. It really hits. Like, that game blew my mind the first time. I was just sitting there. You got Ways to Fall playing through the credits, and I'm like, I don't know exactly what changed in me, but I know something's changed forever. For you, MGS4 gameplay is unparalleled in that franchise. Oh yeah, the cutscenes can definitely be too long. MGS4's cutscenes are damn near ridiculous, but I still love the game for it. I love that Kojima just didn't give a shit. He's like, we're just doing it. Yes, dude, the Octo camo in MGS4. I love that shit. Story holds up. Quite true. I've always taken it to mean that some fights can't be avoided, and that it harkens back to the old saying, uh, you'll meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it. I never heard that one before. That's a great saying. Yeah, yeah. It's so good, man. I think that's why I love the. I think that's why I've always gravitated towards Snake as a character, or especially like Big Boss, or Naked Snake before he inherits the title of Big Boss. Where like I don't know why, even like as a 10-year-old kid, I don't know why I felt like I could relate to this character for some reason, and I always found that strange, even when I was younger. Where I'm like, why do I feel like I can relate to this character? And that's where, like, looking back on it, it's because that's the genius of the writing of this character, is that, like, yes, this is a grown man in the middle, CIA agent on a secret mission, but yet, even to somebody like me, this 10-year-old boy playing this game, I can feel like I can relate to it because it's the theme behind it. The theme of, like, he doesn't know exactly where he stands. And that's something that can be pervasive throughout your entire life. And I still feel that way a little bit sometimes. And that's why I find Big Boss's descent very interesting as well. Like when you go into Peace Walker and then MGS5 and then beyond that into the original Metal Gear games, and you realize that the big villain that ends up being Big Boss is actually not really a big villain. He's just misunderstood and misguided ultimately, where he's like, you know, what is the boss's will? The boss's will, to his interpretation of it, is exactly that. Like, you just got to keep fighting. And so he wanted to. That's what makes the original Metal Gear game so interesting too. Is he wanted to create like outer heaven, right? Where it's like it's a safe haven for soldiers, where the whole philosophy is just, we are soldiers and we fight. There is no side. There is no nothing. Like, that is the code. And really, I love the Metal Gear series, dude. And my hope is that Konami can continue to remake these games and do them justice. And then maybe one day, I don't know if it'll ever happen. Probably not. It's a pipe dream. But one day we can get proper, I don't want to say remakes, because it wouldn't even be a remake, a reimagining. I don't know if it could be done without Kojima, but a reimagining of the original two Metal Gear games, Metal Gear 1 and 2, because I would love to see that, bro, and then see everything come together from start to finish. Great shit. I love Metal Gear, man. I gotta go finish this game. I gotta get the platinum for this. Who am I kidding? I'm gonna have to do it. Who am I kidding? Irfan, you're saying, since there are always conflicts in the world, you can never find peace unless you exit the news cycle. That's when you find peace. Otherwise, chaos will consume you. I can agree with that. Yeah. There's a lot of psychological warfare going on, dude. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's real. Holy shit, it's real. And you got to protect your mental health. I've been struggling with that this year. And, there are certain aspects of myself that I realized are much weaker than I ever realized. And I'm going to need to, it's not just about lifting weights and being fit and being physically strong. It's, it's a whole different battle, is what I'm trying to say. I'm still trying to figure it out. Kojima needs to be involved in any MGS remake. I would love to see that bridge, I would love to see that bridge mended. I just don't think it's ever going to happen, though, man. I think Kojima, I mean, I've been following him for a long time, and especially after his parting ways with Konami, I don't think he has ill will. I don't pick that up. But I do very much feel like he definitely has moved on. Like, I don't think he wants to go back. Although Fizzant will be an interesting one, because I'm telling you, man, I think Kojima's doing Fizzant, so when he eventually retires, like if he can't do a sequel to it, he's basically leaving his team, his studio. Like, here's Metal Gear, guys. I'm going to leave you with Metal Gear. It's not literally in name Metal Gear, but it's Metal Gear. So you can keep making sequels to this. You can basically just make more Metal Gear games. I think that's why he's doing it. But yeah, it's going to be crazy to see what Fizzant ends up looking like, man, and what that game ends up being like. Spoilers, she was a true patriot. Damn, bro. Not again, man. Not again. Dude, I got to tell you, like, the ending of MGS3 with Ocelot, I'm like struggling to beat this game, dude, because I'm like, I just see my cousin. And it's bittersweet. It really is. But God, it still holds up. It still holds up. Ocelot played such a good role in MGS3. And such a, I don't know, man. I feel like sometimes Metal Gear Solid 3 might be the best Metal Gear. I really think that. Because there's just something about it where it's like everything comes together so perfectly. But you're saying Death Stranding 2 is actually a pretty legit MGS if you play it like one. Yeah, I was doing that in a couple of the elimination missions. And it's like, yeah, dude, when you enter some of those enemy encampments, it literally feels like it turns into like MGS5. And it's awesome. And that's what gets me excited, where like you can tell even when he's doing Death Stranding, there's still that original Metal Gear DNA that came from Kojima from the beginning with the original Metal Gear for the MSX. Like, it's still there. I think Konami didn't allow him to do what he wanted, hence why Kojima has his own studio now. Well, yeah, it seems pretty clear that Kojima wanted to do a lot more with MGS5, and I think he really wanted MGS5 to be his magnum opus. And I think it was going to be, but yeah, it just seems like Konami was like, what the fuck is going on over here, dude? How is this game not done? How much more money do you need? And he's like, I need this much more. And they're like, you're fired. I don't know. I think I think Konami didn't like that Kojima was starting to go a little bit Hollywood, networking with people like Kiefer Sutherland and Sam Raimi and Guillermo del Toro. I think the higher up execs at Konami are like, what is this shit? You're not bigger than us, like, get out of here. There was definitely some bad blood. I don't know why, but there was. For sure. It's 43521 in your mind. Yeah, I have trouble with 4 a lot because 4, when I played it, was like, this is the greatest game I've ever played ever and will always be the greatest game. But then I'm like, 3 and 2 though. Is it better than those? And to me, it's more, I almost view it from like a life impact, literally. It's how much of an impact these games have had, where it's like, which of these games impacted my life the hardest, the most? Dude, honestly, yeah, I couldn't believe what Konami decided to do after they fired Kojima. They're like, let's make a Metal Gear Solid 3 pachinko machine. It's like, you guys sick in the head? The answer is yes. And the proof? Metal Gear Survive. Oh my God. Oh man, Metal Gear Survive. The amount of people that just want to pretend that never happened, myself included. What were they thinking, dude? Like, what were they actually thinking? Like, did they really think it would work? All those clowns are out now? Yeah, they are. They found out real quick. Oh, I just realized we passed the 3-hour mark. So here's what we'll do. See. Okay. So we hit 76 members today. Silent Spartan dropping bombs once again for you guys. Yeah, it's time to get those repity reps. It's time. And it's only fitting we play some more Metal Gear music. Because yeah, now I'm itching to play more Metal Gear. Still waiting to find out though about the Metal Gear multiplayer mode, Fox Hunt. Like I really want an update on that cuz I'm loving the gameplay of MGS3, man. Of MGS Delta, I mean. MGS3 music. Okay. All right, guys. It's time to get the reps in. Do some Death Stranding music. I think I would get a copyright for that. I actually have quite a few Death Stranding 2 tracks on my playlist now. So, hold on. All right. Let's get these reps. I think this is the right track. We'll see. Hold on. No. This isn't the right one. This isn't the right one. I don't know what section of the game it is. I'm looking. Is this the same one? That's the same one. God, this music is like ingrained in my mind though. Dude, I'm about to just play. Make it nice and easy. Oh, yo, really quick. I don't know how many people don't know this, because somehow I didn't know this. I played Metal Gear Solid 3 so many times, I didn't know this. When you're trapped, or not trapped, but when you're in the cell after getting captured, if you give Johnny, the guard, 3 things of food, he'll give you your the cigarettes, I forget what they're called, the cigarettes that knock people out. How did dude, it's been 20 years, I didn't know this. Like, how did I just find this out now? It's crazy. Sorry. All right, we'll do some Metal Gear metal. I'm not sure how this is going to sound. Let's see. I'm just doing left arm curls today, man. Just left arm curls. I haven't taken creatine in like a week and a half. So I'm noticing that, like, dude, creatine, most patriotic curls ever. Dude, creatine is such a huge difference maker. Like, it always is, man. Stop taking it for like a week and a half. And like, I feel the burn, like, almost immediately. When I'm on the creatine, it takes a lot longer. I noticed, like, my threshold is much higher. So I definitely got to get back to taking that creatine. But there you go. We got 25 shoulder presses and a measly 10 curls for the left arm. You know, got to do the left arm first. It's my weaker arm, you know. You know what's funny, though? And I'll leave you guys with this before we head out. I'm, what's it called? Ambidextrous? Is that how you say it? Yeah, I'm somewhat ambidextrous. Get those squats. At some point, I'm going to have to do squats. If I do it, though, like, you're just going to see my hat coming up. God, man, squats are awesome, but suck at the same time. But I learned that about myself recently is I use my right and left hand pretty equally. Like, it's just like evenly distributed with everything I do. And I just never thought about that. I always said I was right-handed. Oh, sounds like my son just got home from school. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Again, there's a really good chance there's not going to be any content tomorrow. Mrs. MBG has to get a procedure done, and I'm going to have to help her with that. So, you know, just make sure you have notifications turned on. We'll probably be back today, Monday. We'll probably be back on Wednesday. Good chance. So I want to make sure to thank everybody for their support. If you watched live, if you can't catch the streams live, but you watch them after the fact, thank you guys so much. The viewership is definitely important, and I appreciate it. I also want to give a big thank you to everybody who dropped any direct support. We're sitting at 76 members. Again, shout out to Silent Spartan. He's been an absolute monster when it comes to the support he's been showing with membership drops, membership gift drops. So we're sitting at 76. Crazy. Thank you so much. If you dropped any super chats or direct donations, thank you. I can only do this because you guys make it possible. And also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for the stream. So if you guys see him in the comments, give him some love, show him some thanks. I know he'll appreciate it. And yeah, thank you, Devil Shooter, for all you do for the channel. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. We covered all the topics today. We'll see what Sony announces later this week. Who knows? Maybe they'll announce the show tomorrow. If so, I'll talk about it with you guys on Wednesday, all right? But that's it. Please enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and get some gaming in, and we'll be back on Wednesday, and starting Wednesday, we'll start doing some members content leading into Saturday and Sunday, okay? So I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care, everyone.